Hello, I'm Ian.
And I'm Darren.
And welcome to the Average Bikers in a Cave, a show where a group of bikers chat and share opinions about all things motorbike, from news, reviews, interviews and the big questions. If you like what you hear, then be sure to subscribe, tell your friends and leave us a review.
On today's show, along with our usual ramblings, we will update you on some news from the biking world. We have an interview with the actor, new biker and son of a legend, John Bell. Also, we will tackle this week's big question: what would we have in our dream garage? This week's episode is sponsored by Afterground, an exceptional drone, wedding, portraiture and events photography and videography company that specialises in capturing video and images on the ground and in the air in a style that is modern yet timeless, interesting and vibrant, with a focus on exhilarating moments and pure fun. Using their experience, skills and knowledge, they will work with you to ensure your videos and photos are exactly the way you want them. For more information or to chat to the team, head over to www.afterground.com or check out their Facebook page. Check-in time. I'm going to let you go first because you might actually have some exciting check-in news. Matter of fact, and then I'll let you introduce our special co-host today. I was going to say special guest, but special co-host.
And what I'll probably do is I'll introduce the co-host first, because the co-host is involved in my check-in story.
That would make sense.
And actually, I've got a couple of things to check in about today and a couple of shout-outs for guys that have they've been super fantastic to us this week. Don't you thump your mug down, you now. Come on.
Just because we were talking about it, I thought
absolutely. We check in. So what we're up to this week? Well, I have managed to get out for a run. But not only have I managed to go for a run, not a run as in a ride.
A jog.
Right. No, I didn't go for a run.
I know you were taking up jogging, so.
Well, I tried to, and then you know, kind of food getting in the way. So my amazing son John Bell, who is actually going to be our guest today. Say hi, John.
Hello, guys. How's it going?
There you go. There's John Bell. John. Yeah, absolutely. He passed his CBT. When was that, John? What day?
4 days ago.
4 days ago, and the day he passed.
Only 4 days ago.
4 days ago.
Seems we've been talking about it for ages.
So you remember, if you've been listening to previous podcasts, that we talked about the Mutt Mongrel arriving, the great wee bike and everything. Well, John is now officially allowed on the road legally with that Mutt Mongrel.
No comment.
Yep. And obviously we didn't go out at all illegally on any roads or roads and anything like that and had a shot of it before the CBT. No, we did not. Not at all.
No.
That would be irresponsible.
It would be very irresponsible. And if any videos ever surface of that happening, it happened. It didn't. It's actually
3 days ago.
Fake news.
Yep. Fake news. Fake news. Exactly. Yeah. Thanks, John.
All fake.
All fake. That's very good, isn't it? You did the hands and everything. It's so great we're doing an audio podcast.
I know. And it's not that. I've got an intro later and I've been practicing all week to try and get Jeremy Clarkson. It's a car crash on doing it.
Oh, no, okay. Fair enough. So for the first time in my life, I got to go for a motorbike ride with my son where he wasn't hanging onto my waist. So
see, I wish I had a button now that had like some sort of kind of Littlest Hobo style Hulk.
Maybe tomorrow
that's it,
wanna settle down until tomorrow.
Because that's quite a moment.
I'll just keep moving on.
Yeah, it was quite a moment.
Yeah, it was great, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So and we started off with I wasn't sure how long John would want to go out, because obviously he'd just done his CBT, and you know how exhausting that can be, and John is going to give us a wee chat about his experiences as a new rider out on the CBT, which is why he's with us this week. So if we get any new riders out there or people who have partners or that want to kind of start taking it up, John will give you a wee heads up on what it's like. A bit of fun.
Give you the lowdown.
I'll give you a lowdown on the CBT, and it was just great to do. So we went out. I thought I could probably just want to go out for about half an hour. 3 hours later we got home, which was brilliant. And
any Kenny Loggins?
Well, we didn't have any music playing. We were strictly just sticking to the comms and the helmet and just keeping right, because it was straight from the. But I think I might have sung Danger Zone at one point.
Yes, there was a lot of Danger Zone going on.
Danger Zone.
Yeah.
And but we didn't go past the airport.
Oh well, that doesn't count.
No, so
it needs to be Kenny Loggins past the airport road, and then that's you. That's you in.
I didn't have my flight jacket on, and unless you get a flight jacket on, you can't go full Tom Cruise. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you can't go full Tom Cruise in a maple leaf top.
No, exactly. Exactly.
It doesn't have the same effect.
Which is really cool. So we got to go out, ended up down Houston Bridge and all that, but down to Largs. and over the top. Then to see, when we're looking out over the Firth of Clyde over to Little Cumbria and Butte and everything. It was just stunning.
The Fairley Road.
Aye, the Fairley Road.
That's a good road.
Absolutely amazing, right? So we did that.
Largs was tropical almost. The palm trees and the sunset.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
And on a slightly sinister note, I also pointed out to John the crematorium that I want to get chucked into.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go. That was interesting, wasn't it, John?
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice crematorium. Yeah,
There you go.
Good
So,
taste in crematoriums.
Everybody's dying again there, so it's fine. Right. So, anyway, we move on.
It's going to be a long night.
That may not,
It's gonna be a long
make
night.
the cut. So that was cool. But then John's obviously been out with his bike a wee bit himself, just potting around. And we did have a wee mishap, didn't we, John, with the bike?
Yeah, I didn't think you were going to bring this up.
But I'm bringing it up for very good reasons, because I want to give a particular guy a shout out about
That's
this,
true.
which is amazing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, but John, let him know.
I mean, look, learning to ride your bike, it's all about learning that balance, and even when you're not riding it itself, putting it in, parking it, turning it. And there was just a little slip happened, and I dropped it, and it hit the side of my dad's shed, so the mirror is now smashed. But luckily, the biking community is amazing, and
there's a Facebook group for mutt mongrel owners, which I jumped onto because I was trying to get hold of the.
There's a mutt mongrel owners group.
Yeah.
Oh, that is amazing.
Well, it's a motorcycles group, so mutt mongrels, mastiffs, all the different motorcycles.
Right, okay.
So I'm actually going to give a big. He's just sent me a message just now. A big shout out to Gavin Davis down in Wales in the Rhondda Valley, who to Gavin Davis there, because Gavin, I put on it. Look, I'm looking for a left hand side, or was it right hand side? Can't remember. Mirror for a mutt mongrel. Does anyone know how to get them? Because everything in the mutt website was saying sold out. And Gavin got back straight away, like within minutes, and said, "Hey, I've got a couple of the mirrors just sitting here. I've changed my mirrors on my Mastiff to handlebars, just at the end of the bars mirrors." So, and I was like, "Oh, that's amazing." So he's literally just said to me, "That's it, all posted, and they're on their way to John." And he's just given me the cost of the postage. I'm just going to send the postage back to him because he's not using them. So big, massive
Amazing.
shout out to Gavin. Thank you very much, mate, for that. I really appreciate it.
yes,
And-
thank you, Gavin.
And I think that personifies why we do the podcast, why we love talking about bikes and bikers. It's not about speed and running about and going crazy on bikes. It's about that community and that, that ability to just realise that we've all got the same common love of the road and love of the bikes. So, Gavin Davis, you are a legend. Yeah, because it's a family show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you are a legend, my friend, and thank you very much for that. Hopefully, and I've just told him about the podcast, so hopefully they'll be listening, catchy shout out. Thank you very much to our new Welsh friend. Thank you, Gavin.
That's amazing.
Isn't it brilliant?
It's one of those things you do forget. And obviously me and John were talking earlier about Harley ownership and possibly that being the big bike and all that kind of stuff, which we'll go into more later. But that's one of the things that I miss about having a Harley, is you really feel that community is almost amplified because you have that chapter of, they do frequent runs, and you forget sometimes just how strong that community is. So that's kind of reinvigorated my faith in the biking community. Not that it was dented, but just for somebody it's not even local.
Aye.
He's in Wales.
I know.
It's
He's taken his time,
300
he's
something
gone
miles
into his
away.
garage or whatever, packaged them up, taken them down to the post office, sent them away and everything like that, and I'm like that. Just amazing. So,
It's
unbelievable.
tremendous.
Yeah, so.
If it makes you feel any better, Manicla got her 125 absolutely brand spanking new out of Honda. We drove it from Honda to here, decided she wanted to put petrol in it, went to the petrol station at Tesco, which is literally just around the corner. Coming back down, she decided, oh, hang on, I need to sort something, I'll stop. Put her leg out, and it was wet leaves. And she slipped and snapped the clutch lever on it.
Oh, no.
And the bike was only like hours old, so it happens.
Yeah.
She's never dropped it since.
There you go.
There you go. That
There
should
you
be me
go.
then.
And
Perfect.
of course,
And I'm
if-
actually surprised the shed stood up. I thought,
yeah.
and if you listen to episode 1, you'll know all about the story about my first big bike.
Happens to the best of us then.
another big yellow beast.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Oh dear.
Like father, like son. All right.
So so I think that's my check-in. Although I did also a big shout out to Scott at Harley today. I popped in just to say hi. Finally got a chance to pop into Harley's. What a legend of a guy! Brilliant to have a good chat with him there about the Pan American and the Sports to Rest coming up, and just shoot the breeze for a few minutes. He was busy, so he was dealing with the customer, which was brilliant and good to see that it's the place was busy, especially considering there's nothing across them anymore. Like, with Ducati and Triumph away. Scott, pleasure to meet you, my friend, and I'm sure we'll be popping in a lot more and chatting about stuff, and I will give you that shout for the Pan America. Are we sure?
I've ordered him a t-shirt.
Good on you.
Because he's a top bloke.
He's a top bloke. He's
I'll edit that bit out, but there's also rumour of a 975 coming in that Sports to Rest.
What's that?
Aye, because you know how they get the new 12. This is where we go full geek.
Sorry,
they've got the 1250 engine.
Revolution.
Right? And they've obviously tweaked it to be torquey. Well, I think they're doing a 975 version, so slightly less power, but it's a brand new. It'll still be a V12, I think. And they're talking about putting that in the Sportster S as well, so you can buy because it's the same as the old Sportster. You could get the 883, but you also get the 1200 version. So I think they're going to go down that route, which will be interesting because it'll be lighter again, so it'll be a bit.
Do you know what's probably worth mentioning just about people talk about brake horsepower and torque and all that. Brake horsepower is obviously the power that it gives out and gives you an indication of top speed and all these kind of things. And torque is about how well it squats, really, isn't it?
Pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. So, depending on when you want to overtake, the torqueier it is, the more it goes. So, if you remember the first time, John, you were in the back of my bike and I said, hold on, and you didn't quite hold on quite enough and you nearly fell off the back.
Was that too squirty?
That was a bit too squirty,
okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Welcome to Parenting 101. Hold tight.
Yep.
But I bounced my ween off down the street.
There isn't even a handle.
Obviously,
there isn't even a handle
he doesn't have that same
on the double seat for the street cup. It's just a wee leather strap across it.
Do you know what I was looking at? But looking at your bike, see the wee cowl. See a single seat and a cowl on your bike.
That'll do reason.
I know. Get back on that.
So should we just put the wee back cowl? So like my single seat street cup. The wee cowl at the back. Yeah, that would look cool.
That would look quite cool in there.
Yeah. Don't know if you can get that for them up.
I don't know. There you go.
Maybe.
You probably get a text for somebody shortly.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't have much in the way of checking this week because I've been flat out at work, really, and then obviously try to fill in the gaps by preparing notes for this. However, my one big piece of exciting news kind of came last Friday, where I jumped about here like a kid, is that our local Harley dealership, which we all is doing an adventure weekend at the end of August, or near the end of August, which just happens to coincide with the day before my birthday, and also the day before a celebrity biker's birthday, because me and him share the same birthday, and he is actually going to be there to chat and give his insight and stuff. So we are off to meet Mr. Charlie Boorman, which I am absolutely stoked about, because he and Mr. McGregor are one of the reasons that I got into biking and decided, no, I'm going to nip my wife's head for a eternity until I can get one. So I'm absolutely buzzing.
And I'll be there too.
Yay!
So that's
and
really cool.
I booked on for the Pan America test ride because, well, why not? Because they've got a fleet of them, apparently. It said on the website. We've got a fleet of Pan Americas, so why not?
They must
take
bring
it
them
out
up
and test drive it?
because as far as I'm aware, they've got one at the minute.
Aye, they've got one because the owner Don's got one of these on. See the white and orange one? Did you see it when you were there? No,
I was sitting out front. Aye, beautiful.
Aye, that's the colour I would have it in, unless I got a Sportster with him. But there you go.
And John would look good in a minute because I know I've always going about me and my wee short legs on the podcasts.
Yes.
But John has got big, long, lanky legs like his mum. So he could be on a Pan America and probably flat-feeted and everything. Look amazing on it.
How funny would that be? You'd be raging.
Oh, don't tell. No.
It'd be like, you're not putting that in my shed.
No. We need fit
I don't know if both bikes would go in that shed.
No, it wouldn't. No.
It'd be hard pushed. The only other thing is I've got my mock IEM test this week. It's tomorrow. So I need to reread my book, which I should have been doing tonight, but I mean, we can always do it tomorrow.
We'll talk quick. It's fine.
Aye. And I'll probably come out here and then start to edit and no bother reading the book anyway. If I don't know by now, I'm not going to know it at all. So, but that's my check-in. And I would say we'll have a check-in with John, but I think we've got a whole section we can check in with John.
Yeah.
And get John's insight on all things new in the CBT world because we forgot about it.
Yeah. from the perspective of a new baby biker.
A new baby biker.
New,
And it's not that we do have new listeners who are actually in preparation for the CBT, so this will be quite interesting. So, because they keep texting me and going, what about, and I go, episode 2, episode 5.
episode
I just don't reply. I just go, episode 1, episode 4, episode 3, episode 3.5 if you're interested in something else. So, aye. The joys. There you
Excellent.
go. That was check-in.
Nice one, check in.
You ready?
Yep.
And now it's time.
Hello, it's now time for the news.
That was the best plug-in I've ever bought.
That's brilliant, isn't it? Love
I didn't even buy it. It was free. So.
Excellent.
Right, you're up.
Okay, so it's time for the news, and it's first news today is the 2021 Indian FTRS. Yes, an Indian FTRS.
Which, just before you go into that,
Uh-huh.
if anyone wants to see it in action and get a different view of opinion and lives in the UK, clearly, you know what I mean, motorcycle show with Henry Cole has started back up season 10.
There you go.
The first bike he had on last week. One of these.
I don't know how comfortable I am saying Indian. There seems to be a bit of a thing happening in America at the moment about using the word Indian, isn't it? John, you can talk about this in a kind of off sense, because for those that don't know, John is an actor. My son John's an actor, and he's an Outlander, and he's been working with a lot of the First Nation guys round in from Canada. And obviously there's a lot of things happening in America. Washington Redskins, they've changed their name to Washington Football.
That's right.
The Cleveland Indians have now changed their name to the Cleveland Guardians.
Oh, have they?
Yeah.
Oh, I never
So, is this, without getting into too much detail, but this is quite interesting to just say this is still called an Indian motorcycle, and they still use a native First Nation kind of.
Yeah, I think that's pretty problematic now.
Yeah.
I
So
wouldn't be supporting that.
yeah,
They need a brand change, I think. There, yeah.
I don't know if they've still got, because they used to have the headdress thing was
Yeah.
part of the
it
name,
doesn't. The
and I don't see it on the new bike.
No.
However, I don't know what the current kind of scouts and stuff like that obviously have been in the market for a while.
Yeah.
Whether they've still got them on it.
Yeah.
But interesting. I'll look into that.
And it might be something it might be something worth looking into for future podcasts to see what their stance in that is.
Mm.
That's
terms
a
of
really
the
good
bike,
point, actually.
because it's like kind of relaunched, doesn't it? Because the old Indian motorcycles way back in the day, they kind of faded away to nothing, didn't they? And then
they were
bankrupt.
without using expletive, but they were on their Jerry.
Aye, and so they've relaunched the brand, but they're still using that, and I know that could be problematic is problematic, especially across the pond. So John's very aware of that. So it'd be interesting to find that out. John, is that right?
Yeah, definitely looks in more information about that. Yeah.
As we frantically Google while you talk.
Yep. So I will talk very slowly. No. So since 2019, when Indian launched the flat track styled FTR, it's been a reasonable success for the company, the US company. So what they've done to make it better? So we'll start with the engine. Originally based on the 1133cc Scout engine, they went and changed this is it, bore and stroke.
See, I knew it wouldn't last long.
They went and changed the bore and stroke to increase the engine to a 1203 cc, which in turn produces a modest 123 bhp. I'm a poet and I don't know it. And that's about a 20% boost in power. Now they've also changed the bike's footwear, moving away from an 18 or 19 inch wheel on Dunlop tyres to a 17 inch on Metzler Sport Tech tyre, and the rear has moved from 150 to 180 width of. Have you gone from inches to millimetres there?
Aye, just to keep you on your toes.
Ah, thanks, cheers, okay.
Just to make sure you're paying attention.
Absolutely.
There's no
This-
Didigal Gouadji's in there, so you're
No,
fine.
that's fine. So I've got to find something, haven't I?
Yep.
This is coupled with a revised suspension setting and a 40mm narrower handlebar, which makes it a bit sharper than the fun bends. Weighing in at 233 kilos, dry then. It's not the world's heaviest bike, but not an Olympic gymnast either. I like that. That's a nice wee metaphor there, especially with Tokyo and all that happening.
Good at this.
I like that. Was good, yeah. Comes in 4 versions. The base model is 12,995. And the top spec, called the R Carbon version, which I assume is covered in wee bits of carbon fibre.
That's the one Henry Cole took out.
Is 15,595. So it's a lot of money. They're no cheap. Yeah, lovely looking bike, but will it have competition come September with the new Sportster S at a similar power and price point? So if you get a chance to have a look at the picture of the new Indian, it doesn't look anything like the new Sportster S. I suspect that from a power performance, it will have a bit of competition. But you know, somebody that wants a bike that looks like that probably doesn't want a sports race, in my opinion. That's more like you're coming up against like your monsters and all that kind of stuff, and
It's definitely like a naked flat tracker.
your kind of your triumphs, your speed triple, and that looks to me more like what it's kind of up against. It's it's a lovely looking bike and everything, but it doesn't turn heads to me the way the sports the rest does.
And I think it's because the engine and that's hidden behind a lot of frame and exhaust and stuff. So by all accounts, it goes like stink. So
yeah, so if you want to go to stink, then it's definitely a contender.
I guarantee you there'll be a like for like comparison.
No,
which takes me on to my next piece of news. MCN do their 250 road test. Finally, they've managed to get the Mac Daddy of adventure bikes up against the new upstart. So it's time for the GS versus the Pan America. Dun, dun, dun. And we'll try and stay away from World War II references. The old America versus the Germans here is not a good idea. So, in case anyone's new to the show and never read MCN or doesn't even know what MCN is, because we have a worldwide audience, MCN, or Motorcycle News, is a weekly motorbike newspaper here in the UK. And every week they do a 250-mile bike off. I can't think of any other way to describe it other than a bike off. And they usually take two bikes that are very similar. The 250-mile route comprises of 3 different routes, and it's A roads and B roads mostly. Some are fairly straight, some are kind of long and swooping, and then others are really quite technical in terms of the twistiness. Too many S's in there. Sibilance is horrible. Then they give a verdict, and it's obviously a verdict. It's their verdict. It's their opinion, same as it would be ours. So, but these guys have obviously are all motorbike journalists, so they're clued up. So,
unlike just 2 average bikers in a cave who just talk.
Well, it's 3 today.
It's 3, yeah.
It's absolutely. 3 average bikers in the cave today.
You don't mind being called average, John, do you?
Not at all, no.
He's like, I'm taking it. Take a free t-shirt. Let's see what they say. In the blue corner, weighing in at 258 kilos wet from the USA, it's the new Harley-Davidson Pan America.
See, can't you see?
With 150 brake horsepower and 95 pound-foot of torque, starting at... Well, it starts technically at 14,200. However, they're testing the special, which comes in at £15,500. In the red corner, weighing in at 249 wet, which sounds wrong, from Germany, the current defending champion, the BMW R1250 GS TE.
Yeah.
I wondered where you were going. I was wondering where you were going to go with that. I was like, oh... Head for the pause button. The GS comes in with
ein BMW.
You'll not be allowed back into Munich. You know what I mean? We better go back to the BMW. You'll have your picture will be up. Do not let this man in. With 134 brake horsepower and 106 pound-foot of torque, and its starting price for the TE is 16,949. Now, both are surprisingly similar in terms of engine size, tubular frame, tank size.
Tubular frame, is that music thing?
Aye, Mike Oldfield. That's the one.
Mike Oldfield's tubular frame.
Tubular frame.
If anybody wants to listen to that, it's available on Apple Music, Spotify.
I know. And Mike Oldfield, if you're listening, love the album, drop us a note. It's about the same seat height, traction control, corner and ABS, all the good stuff that you would expect to have on a bike of that ilk and that kind of money. MPG, there's nothing really to separate them. 48 miles per gallon on the Harley, 49 on the Beamer. So, what did the testers say after 250 miles? The BMW is dynamically better and has that ultra refinement, which you would expect from 40 years of development, because that's how long they've been developing the GS. They had their 40th anniversary paintwork and stuff this year. Now, yet the Harley is still a very competent piece of kit. And if you're willing to forgive some of the small quirks, you will get that meaty V-twin power, brutal decadence and daringly different looks. The BMW likes, so we've got ultra-refined package, flexible, exciting engine, impressive road handling, and excels in pretty much all conditions. The dislikes for the Beamer is price, and they are a tad ubiquitous. I mean,
so one of those was it starting at, isn't it?
I think the one they actually test drove when it had, because it had different paint on it and had this on it, had that on it, it was like £20,900. In fairness, the Harley they test drove, again, starting price was 15.5, but they added the boxes and the luggage and the top box and all that, so it was up about the 20 grand mark as well. There was about 500 quid in it. However, like for like, bog standard at the standard price, you get a bit more kit on the Harley, and that's one of the things they say about the likes. It's got a strong engine, it's comfortable, it sticks out in the crowd, and it comes with loads of gadgets. Bog standard, well, bog standard for the special. The dislikes for the Harley are the side stand action when the suspension is lowered, and we did talk about this when I test drove it. The side stand I'm not a big fan of. Would it put me off buying one? Probably not. You would probably get used to it because every bike side stand's different. It's ponderous steering and it's a wee bit rougher on the edges, so it's no real surprise. I mean, these guys are taking it out.
Well, you've got a BMW. I know it's not the big
No, the
monster, right?
The bulk of it's the same as
But-
the GS. do
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
but it's there or thereabouts, and you've ridden the Pan America. Is it?
And I've ridden a GS and I
Aye.
had a GSA and
Yeah.
aye. And
Do you agree with that? Because I know you're actually quite taken with the Pan America, weren't you?
aye, and I do like the Pan America. I think I like the fact that it looks different. It looks like a Mack truck for the front, which when you look at it in the picture, you go, "Ugh, it's a bit Marmite." But when you see it up in the flesh, especially in that kind of, they used to call it burnt orange. I don't know what they call it now, but it's definitely an orangey and pearl white kind of colour. It looks, that's the puppy. It's nice, and with the wee grill and the light and stuff, which the demo one at Harley's has got, it looks the business. And I just think every second bike on the road right now is a BMW GS. There's so many of them. And again, when we talk to Charlie on the 21st of August, I will blame him, because at the end of the day, well, and he'll probably blame KTM, because he didn't want to go around the world on a GS. He wanted to go around the world on a KTM, and KTM said no. So he said, well, I'll not repeat what he said, but there's a lot of beep, 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 beeps. So it's 40 years of development. It's a well-refined bike. You cannot go wrong.
You wouldn't expect a new engine to. I think probably, to be honest, what I mean is the new engine for the Harley's coming off much better than you'd expect for it being a new engine
Oh,
against something of that caliber and that.
I was
history.
I was surprised. It just, because normally you get the power or you get the torque. You don't really get like massive amounts of both, or you don't feel the massive amounts of both. But with a Harley, it just seems to be, it's there. It's surprisingly, it reads more underpowered. But when you're on it and you twist it, it just goes regardless of what gear you're in. I mean, you just get it all in one go, and then the way
that's what they were saying to Harley today. Big Scott, wee Scott. Was saying today.
cardboard box.
Cardboard box. Big Scott, wee Scott, cardboard box. Was saying, he said that you put it in sports mode and you go, and he said, oof, it catches you off guard.
Aye. It's clever. It's got clever technology and all that kind of stuff in it. So, I'm not surprised that MCN have said that the B8 of them slightly better, because they have got 40 years more experience in that market and in that bike particularly.
Yeah.
But I do think for a first go, the Pan America's it's a great bit of kit. And I'm going to be honest and say, Fro, I was like, no, I quite like my RT. I wouldn't outrule it as my next bike. Potentially, nice. It's in there as one of the contenders anyway. Experts have tried it now, which is the main thing.
And it's
rather than just us.
I'm not disagreeing with the average bloke.
Aye, distinctly average, mate.
That's it.
Yep.
Aye. That's what makes us so endearing.
What's happening in Triumph?
Well, it was a big Triumph announcement, and fun enough, I noticed it myself the other
Ian's
day.
favourite topic.
I know. I always get to talk about Triumph. I love you, Triumph. Send me free things.
In fairness, right, the very first day I put the news in there and don't give you the Triumph story, that'll be it. I think it'll be a one-man show for there on, and you'll just not come back.
I'll take the huff. I'll take my street cup and I'll run away. So Triumph are making a big announcement. They are making a charge on the motocross and enduro market. So they're partnering with two huge names in the field as ambassadors. So if you know these guys, you'll know how big a name that they are in that particular field. Ricky Carmichael, who's the 41-year-old American, who some think is the greatest motocross rider of all time, and who has won 12 AMA motocross and supercross titles, and scooped 5 medals at the X Games.
See what I mean?
So
not a week goes by that I don't have some sort of.
Doesn't he let you get away with it, does he?
and so I'll try again. Has won 12 AMA motocross and supercross titles, and the sniper has scoped 5 medals at the X Games and is on board along with. Now this is great, John. You're good at Spanish. That must be a Spanish surname.
Go on, give it a go.
Ivan Cervantes.
Not too bad. Ivan
Ivan.
Cervantes.
There you go. See,
Muy
that's
bien.
why that's why we brought John along here. In fact, John, if we get anybody that listens in Spain?
I and there's a couple of places in South America as well.
Right, John, you can do a wee bit of your chat in Spanish for that. That'd be brilliant.
Debería hacer una bienvenida única para los fanáticos españoles. Gracias por escucharnos y sí, tengáis un buen día. Mwah.
There you go.
Definitely feel like an average biker now.
A totally average.
And how am I going to subtitle that on YouTube? It's just never going to happen.
Absolutely. I think what John said there was,
Don't listen to these two old idiots.
thank you very much to all our Spanish listeners. Thank you very much. Something like that, was it?
I said, do you want me to? I should do a special announcement in Spanish for a special Spanish welcome to all of our Spanish listeners. So thank you very much, and I hope you all have a good day. Dos besitos, 2 kisses.
There you go. That's
See?
it. So proud of
We're
that
moving
boy.
up the world.
So proud of that
We're
boy.
moving up the world.
So anyway, say the name again.
Ivan Cervantes.
Who was a 5-time world enduro champion and has completed the Dakar Rally twice. So they're both massive names, right? So if the Dakar Rally is the heavy duty motorcycle equivalent of getting sand in your shoes.
Aye.
I maybe undersold it just a tad there. Do you know what I mean?
No.
No. So we have no confirmation yet on what bike Triumph will build exactly, but the CEO, Nick Blair, was excited at this announcement and a new chapter for Triumph. I'm excited to see what they bring out about this. He said, we're 100% committed to making a long-lasting impact in this highly competitive and demanding world with a single-minded ambition to deliver a winning motorcycle lineup for a whole new generation of Triumph riders. Can't wait to see what Triumph come up with. We will keep you posted as things develop. No doubt, I will keep you posted because I will get that bit of the news to read out. So I will be keeping you posted. And
See if there's a Triumph story next week. You're not getting it.
All right, okay.
You just shot yourself in the foot.
And got it all covered in sand.
Get it all covered in Dakar sand.
Dakar.
So not to be like this, doesn't have to go in, but I'm just wondering. So like Triumph are actually going to be
No, everything goes in.
Everyone goes in.
This is like they're competing now. They're announcing that they're
So
going
I
to
don't know if they're actually going to put it in to compete. All they're saying is they're building those bikes.
Yeah, but I read that they would be building bikes that will go into
I hope so.
motocross and enduro competition.
and they will
absolutely.
go up against brands like
KTM and
Yamaha.
and all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
Aye.
yeah, all
All
the
you guys that do your motocross bikes. Yamaha's probably one of your big players
Yes.
in that space because they've got a whole rake. Honda have got a couple. They've got, I think, the 250 CF
yeah.
is their kind of one. I think they've got a 400 version as well. But it's all these kind of massive bikes that you see people doing wheelies on.
Yeah,
They've got
jumping
really
through the air and
big,
all that.
like 19-inch front wheels, all riddled with spokes and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, but I was trying to remember something there, so I've googled it because we're talking about motocross and jumping up and down and all this kind of stuff, right? And it just reminded me back to my childhood and probably one of the first things that made me want a motorbike. For people of a certain age listening to the podcast, you will remember Kickstart.
All right, I thought you were going to say Evil Knievel.
So
I was
Kickstart
like,
was a TV series. It was
I think that was a Harley Sportster he was on.
it was on from 1979 right through to 1992. Actually, I didn't realize it was on that long. And it was literally quite often it was kids. There was on their wee kind of motocross bikes jumping over planks and going up and down and falling into bales of hay because they couldn't do it very well and all that kind of stuff. But I used to sit mesmerised at this show when I was younger, and just loved it. And I think probably that to me now that I've remembered about that show was probably the time that I went, yeah, at some point in my life I'm going to have a motorbike.
And I think that's where
Absolutely.
a lot of people that have that desire to be on a motorbike do at a young age will go into motocross because you don't need a license to do motocross.
Aye, I think they're up and down the fields
Because
and all that,
you're up and down the fields, you're on specific tracks and all that kind of stuff. So it's all quarantined.
And it used to be tiny wains, tiny wee children
Aye.
on these bikes doing bunny hops and all that over planks
on
of
their
wood
back
and stuff.
wheel.
Aye, on
Yeah,
their
that-
back wheel and things. And you're going, I can't do that in my
BMX?
push bikes. You know what I
Aye.
mean? I was 2 feet to do wheelies. I'm still 2 feet to do wheelies.
I'd be too fit to do wheelies. No, I just don't know.
Mm.
I'd be too fit to dropped it.
Aye, that's me.
I smashed a perfectly good bike up.
I know.
And it'd be scuff marks for.
You can do wheelie courses, though, can't you?
Yes, you can.
Not
yeah.
killing that does it, doesn't it? So.
Aye.
But you've got to use your own bike. Do you?
No, there's one down south. Can't remember what it's called. If anybody's watching, look up Teapot One on YouTube. Teapot One was recently on a wheelie course, and they get you on a bike, and it's almost got stabilizers, and it's got a little back wheel thing, so that when you go up, the back wheel hits the ground, so you can't go too far back, and it gets you to learn the throttle control and what the balance feels like and all that kind of good stuff. And then eventually you can then go into date on your big bike. So,
Oh, and we've just missed Father's Day, John. Oh, what a shame.
It's always next year.
Hey, did you hear that? You heard it right there, folks. That's, we have got witnesses now. Thanks.
aye. And for the right word, I'll edit that out so that there's no actual proof of that.
Oh, but that'd be really good.
Out. The only thing I will say is if Triumph thing gets me or makes me excited about this is I don't think Triumph have ever made a bad bike. So when they put when they go, right, we're going to make this bike like the Bobber. Right, we're going to make a Bobber, and they went out and they made the Bobber, and it was a good bike, but they went, still not good enough. We'll make the Bobber black, and then they brought out the black, and it was like even better than the Bobber. So when they put their
And
minds
now the
to
new
it,
Bobbers are based on the Bobber Black and refined even more.
and they do it with the adventure bikes, you know what I mean? They've had like the latest, the Tiger 900 replaced the 800. The 800 was a good enough bike, maybe slightly underpowered. They bring out a 900. It's getting rave reviews.
900
So-
Rally.
Once they've got that set, right, this is the direction we want to go in for this new bike or whatever, they don't tend to make a bad bike.
No.
So it'll be interesting. My only concern is have you seen the height of motocross bikes?
Aye.
Right, okay. Just make sure that's out there. Moving on.
That's not for me.
No.
But maybe for John.
John will be alright.
You'll be fine.
I don't think that's your style of bike though.
Do you not see me? No, I kind of see myself as a bit more laid back on a bike.
A
Yeah.
bit more retro and
Mhm.
chill. Aye, those things are just in there, angry, noisy. Till he gets one or goes on a wheelie course with you, and then it'll be like, I need a motocross bike.
True.
We can
Just
we
to
could
really
do
up
the really
the-
close together. That'd be cool.
Oh yeah.
You should actually.
I'm down to clown. Absolutely.
There we go.
Susan, this had nothing to do with me. Moving on. KTM. KTM, and I've snuck this in here, at the recommendation of one of our other co-hosts, Mr. Colin. I'm just going to Mr. Colin.
Mr. Colin.
Hello, Mr. Colin. KTM RC8C. So KTM, along with a factory race team and Kramer Motorcycles, have developed a new carbon Kevlar clad racing bike called the RC8C. Powered with the 890 Duke R engine, which is an 899cc parallel, producing 126 bhp and 97.5 pound-foot of torque. It has a new air intake that improves throttle performance. It's a hand-built steel frame, custom exhaust, it's forged wheels, fully adjustable WP Apex Pro forks and shocks, all racing Brembo brakes with a Corsa Corta master cylinder.
Every
Which,
time I
which
see-
I read it
Aye.
and went, oh, but apparently,
I just didn't see Vauxhall Corsa and go, oh,
Well, that was
does
the
not
problem I
excite
had.
me. And it
Aye.
does not excite me at all.
but
It's
what,
nothing to do with Vauxhall Corsa.
but what it does is it lets you alter the biting point of your brakes. So same as it on a GP bike.
Oh, cool.
And I'm going, that's amazing. However, you can ride on the road. It also comes with a vast array of AIM MSX electronics that gives you more than enough data than you would ever need, both through the 5-inch TFT, or you can plug your laptop into it. Ooh, the geek in me comes out and goes, aye, that's what I would do. I wouldn't have a clue what I'd be looking at.
The only
I'd
thing
just
I'd
see
be worried,
graphs
yeah.
and stuff and go, oh.
The only thing I'd be worried about was how you'd be able to kind of like type things into your laptop while you're riding along. That
Oh,
is,
dead easy. You get an optional extra laptop holder.
all right, cool. That's
Aye.
fine. That's
Quad
perfect.
Lock are developing an actual laptop holder for the top as well.
Cool. Well, maybe when we get to West Coast Harley Charlie, because you know he's a Quad Lock fan.
West Coast Harley Charlie.
West Coast Harley Charlie. Oh, we've got to call him that.
Aye.
West Coast Harley Charlie.
I'm going to call him that.
Oh, that's brilliant.
West Coast
Um,
Harley Charlie.
That's good. When we get there, maybe he can let us know because he's a Quad Lock fan.
He is.
Yes,
He
yeah.
does a lot of promotion for Quad Lock. And no wonder. It is a cracking product.
It's a good product.
And if you need one of them for your bike, let me know, because I've got spares.
There you go.
It comes in at £30,999. It ain't cheap. And that's before you start adding a race day pack on it or a track day pack on it. Then the price just goes absolutely through the roof. KTM are only making 100, which is the yeah. And if you want one, you better get down quick to your local KTM dealership because they're going to fly off a shelf, and you need $2,500 in your back pocket because that's what the deposit is. Just to reserve one, $2,500. If you get $2,500 to play with, and you want a £31,000 track bike, fill your boots because it looks like an absolute weapon.
Aye, it's just, and that's just not
essentially. But it is. It's a MotoGP bike. It's as close as you're going to get to a MotoGP bike without actually entering the MotoGP or like having ridiculous amounts of money that you could go and squander with an actual manufacturer to say, build me a GP bike because that's what I want. You know what I mean? You need to be Tom Cruise or something to go and be able to do that. So this is an alternative option, which if you're into your track days, fill your boots. But I'd be terrified that I put it in the gravel and that's $31,000 sliding along the ground. I know a guy who's got a Jigsaw and that's all he uses his Jigsaw for, is for track days. And it's a Hayabusa. He uses it just for track days. It's got slick tyres and everything on it. And he come off a bad one, then about 85, and it went sliding along the ground. And he said, I was sliding on my back in my Power Ranger suit. He says, and I'm going, oh, it's got to be expensive. As he's sliding along the ground, and he went, it's not too bad. And then it caught the gravel, and it went, whoop, and flipped into the air and started bouncing about. He went, that's going to cost me. That's going to cost, wing mirror, that's going to cost me. And it was like, that's what puts me off.
Aye, absolutely.
The fact that I might bounce it into the gravel. But there you go.
So John, people do that all the time with their bikes. Therefore, don't worry about cracking your mirror off a shed.
Aye, that would be the least of my worries. I've been more worried about a shed.
Aye.
Do you know what I mean?
Shed was fine. Last of the day, this is the Sinus, is that how you pronounce it?
Mm-hmm.
Sinus Terrain 125.
Hang on. How else would you pronounce it?
Sinise. Sinise. Sinus.
Cyanide sounds like a poison.
Sini. Maybe it's a silent S.
I would not ride a bike called a cyanide.
Well, maybe it's a maybe it's a Cine with a silent S.
I was going to buy a cyanide.
Maybe
Maybe I thought I'd buy a plutonium.
It could have two silent. It could have two silent N's, and it's called a size.
Sinus.
It's a Sinus, right? Sinus Terrain 125.
Is it terrain or is it?
It's Terrain.
Terrain.
Terrian. It's a Terrian. It's a Terrian apart for trying to say Sinus. That's what it is. A Sinus Terrian apart 125, and the Sinus T125 or Terrain 125 is the latest from the Chinese company. It's very GS style. I'm going to just show John a wee picture of it there. Look, there you go. A wee adventure bike. And it's very GS styled, sturdy looking bike. So if you could have a wee small short Ewan McGregor, he'd probably sit in that very nicely, wouldn't he? Yeah. Look good, it would suit him. It does look like a proper adventure bike. It has panniers as standard, and if you want the top box to complete the long way round look, or the no that long way round because it's only 125, it's an extra 85 quid.
The very long way round.
The very long way round. The very long way round. You know, because it doesn't go above 50. I don't know. What does it go above? I don't know. That's £85, and that's not a typo. Just, you know, Darren is a king of the typos. 85 quid is the top box. Yeah, it comes with a functional LCD dash. You wouldn't really want an unfunctional LCD dash, to be fair, would you? Do you know what I mean?
Don't know.
You
if
know?
it brings the price down.
It's like when somebody says to me, you know, my wife, right? So she's
careful. She might actually listen.
She's
to this
forever
one
getting
day.
essential oils, but she's not got them all the time. So how essential are they? Do you know what I mean?
But so what's a non-essential oil?
Exactly. It's like an occasional table. What is it when it's not a table? You know. Anyway, so it's a functional LCD. I went off on a rant. Sorry, John. Just so you know, I went off on a rant about pockets last week. So rein me in now before I go off on a rant about occasional tables.
If you start to go off on a rant, I'm going to mute you.
Yeah, fair enough. A functional LCD dash, linked brakes. It's got a windscreen and crash bars, and all that's fine. But the functional LCD dash is key to you being able to see what you're doing on the bike.
Fine line.
So, okay, it is a 125, and it only puts out. And this isn't a typo. It only puts out 12.7 brake horsepower.
Yes, that is not a typo.
That is not a typo.
Double, triple check that this week.
So, we will comfortably sit at 60 miles per hour and possibly reach 70 in the right conditions, i.e., not with middle-aged men sitting on it who have maybe got a COVID body, you know, or a lockdown body.
I'm COVID ready.
You know, so for instance, John's Mart. When I'm on it, I'm lucky if I can get above 50 miles an hour. But John was hitting 70 going downhill. You know, so because He's
Oh,
as
to be
light
young
as a feather.
again.
Oh, to be young and thin. However, who really needs that much faster for a learner bike? You know, and we did say you kind of go on the motorway and everything. You want to do the wee twisted roads. You want to get practice, you know, manoeuvre and all that. So that's it's perfect, yeah. And if you like adventure bikes, it's actually a cracking looking wee bike. You could pack it up. You could do the NC 500 on it and not look out of place. And starting at, and this is an absolute bargain, 2,999. So $3,000 for what looks like a cracking wee adventure bike. You could, as you say, you could take it on the road up Loch Lomond, you know, do all that kind of stuff, and you wouldn't look at a place,
No.
you know. Especially considering the traffic's in Loch Lomond, you'd be sitting in a queue anyway, so it wouldn't matter being able to do any more than about 20 mile an hour. Do you know what I mean?
Right
In
right
essential-
now in the NC 500, you're not
So-
getting above 30.
Yeah, so super impressed. It's what the Chinese manufacturers do really well. They take all the best bits from your other manufacturers, your Tigers, your BMW, all that stuff, right? And they put it into this wee package that's for a market that none of these guys cater for, really. And that's your learner that loves an adventure bike or really wants to get into the adventure bike kind of stuff. As a footnote, they do a Terrain 380 with a 380cc parallel twin, which produces 36 brake horsepower and comes with a whole bunch of upgrades. And probably it's a great A2 bike or a commuter bike for 4,799.
Which will only impact you.
No.
Because by the time you pass, you'll be old enough to just get whatever you like.
Exactly. So that was
I'm just trying to think of something exciting to say about the Sinus or Sinus or Sinus.
It's genuinely. I mean, to be fair, when you look at it, it looks like a nice wee adventure bike. But I think what's exciting about it is that it's a 125 and it looks like an adventure bike. That's you know.
See, when I did mine, right, when I went to look at 125, right, because obviously, again, I wasn't in my youth, right, and I was pre-COVID ready before COVID was a thing. For me, to get something like that, it had to be like a Varadero, the Honda Varadero,
Yeah.
which was a 650, but they did a 125 version, and all they did was just take the engine out and put the engine in, so it was a properly big bike. The problem being is going back 5 years, the Varadero, to get one that was like 5 or 6 years old, you were still paying nearly what you're paying brand new for that.
Mm-hmm. I know,
Because
absolutely.
they were about 2.6 for a decent one.
And even when I learned 20 years ago-ish,
Back in the day.
when a girl had to do one test and, you know, you could have a coffee and everything. I was talking to the
While you were doing it.
Well, I was doing it,
Aye.
there was a boy with Varadero coming in, 125, coming in to do his CBT and go out sometimes, you know. Cracking looking bike. And this could be, for want of a better word, the new Varadero in the sense of it's got a really nice
It
look
does
to
look,
it
aye.
for such a...
And I know folk are going to go,
Learner
oh,
friendly.
but it's a Chinese bike and Chinese bikes. I'm going to be funny. If you look after it, so if you make sure that it's, I'm going to say lubed up, but if you make sure it's all covered and rust protection, ACF 50, whatever it is, and you look after the bike, check its tension, clean it and dry it and keep it in a garage or whatever, I don't see why that bike wouldn't last you long, just as long as any other bike out there, as long as you
last
look
year
after it.
I agree with you. I don't see how it did. And it's also the kind of bike that you're not going to have for a long time. Really.
Aye, unless you keep it for commuting.
Aye.
Because again, with top box and panniers, you could throw a rucksack or whatever in there and just off you go.
And you know, it's really good. I think it's really good, you know, to have like a wee 125 keeping for commuting purposes. You know, so if for any reason at some point in the future a wee 125 just became free, you know, maybe somebody wasn't using it anymore, and you know, if you happen to work maybe only a couple of miles down the road, it'd be really good if that wee 125 was just sitting around for that kind of nice wee simple 2-3 mile commute. I don't know if that'll ever happen, to be fair. I don't know if that'll ever be a situation that people would experience, but you know,
I'm just going to fade him out. I'm just going to fade him out now. He's chancing it. Oh, and on that chancing note, that was the news. Special guest time. Well, I say special guest. It's more co-host because you've been co-hosting, so I'm going to say it's special co-host time. As we alluded to at the start, I am delighted and super excited to welcome our first celebrity co-host.
Oh, please. Minor celebrity.
In this cave, That's celebrity. Take it where you can get it. Our guest today is a young actor who has starred in a number of blockbuster movies and shows such as Wrath of the Titans, Battleship, The Hobbit, Trainspotting 2, and most recently the hit TV series Outlander. But undoubtedly, his biggest claim to fame so far is he is the son of a world-famous podcast host.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There you go. You heard it from the horse's mouth.
Mm-hmm.
From the horse's
There's
mouth.
no chance he's lying.
In my best Jeremy Clarkson.
You just heard
I
that joke,
know.
didn't you? And you're going, you did it.
I don't know why Jeremy Vine came into my head as well at some
Uh-huh.
point. I'm like, yeah. In my best Jeremy Clarkson style, Grand Tour style voice, welcome to the cave, John Bell.
That wasn't too shabby.
I wasn't too shabby.
Yeah.
I was trying to find somewhere that, you know, how you get the guy off that did Britain's Got Talent. You can get these things, you can request
Oh, yeah.
like an impression. And I thought I could just send him like a whole script here and just send it to him and go, here, 40 quid, fill your boots.
Yeah.
So,
So,
but aye.
excellent. So, welcome to the cave, John Bell, and we're going to dive into the questions. Now, so this will be kind of slightly bizarre if I'm asking my son questions
I'm just
that
going to
I know the answers to. So I'm going to let Darren ask the questions.
Can both chip in? I don't mind.
You don't mind me just asking you questions that I already know the answer to?
Sure. It is a
Excellent.
bit weird, actually. Now you
Well,
can mention it, okay.
Tell you what, I'll ask I'm going to say the redundant questions, right? Because, well, if you don't know, I'd be mightily shocked. And again, this will be a branch off into Parenting Podcast, episode 1. So, John, age.
23.
Dun, dun, dun.
He's always
Well done, that's
he's
£1,000.
He's always, he's always
£1,000.
he's always 7 in my eyes.
And I think we've kind of talked about this, but what you're riding at the minute,
I'm up Mongrel 125.
and how are you finding it?
Loving it. Yeah. Living, laughing, and loving.
I think we should get a picture of your mutt mongrel before you leave and put it up on the social media so that everyone knows what a mutt mongrel looks like.
Yep.
If they haven't Googled it already, which they might have done or they might know. But it's very Steve McQueen. I do like your bike.
It's really cool, and we'll angle it so that you don't see the crack mirror.
or my dirty driveway.
Aye.
What got you into biking?
I would probably say my dad. Yeah. I think.
Don't pick him up.
No, I have to. It's the truth. You got your first bike when I was 7, right?
About that, yeah.
Right
For
about
the
that,
listeners,
yeah.
for the listeners who can't see, that's Ian's cogs working.
Yeah, absolutely. Aye, that'd be right. Aye, 7, yeah. Go,
Yeah.
Let's go with that. Yeah.
And I can remember getting on the back of it once when I was maybe like 9, and it was literally just round a driveway. And I was so excited, and then my mum told me you'll never be able to do that again until you're like
Basically, we did it
18,
without your mum's
19.
permission, and she went local.
That was going to be my
Okay.
next question. Where was Susan at this point?
Exactly.
basically she wasn't there. I don't think.
No, and then I told her about it, and she decided.
She nearly freaked out.
Yeah.
Yeah. But after that moment, I always like used to see your bikes, and I always used to love them, and
You'd sit on them and stuff like that.
I'd sit on them and like you really got me into that kind of style, and I've kind of like it's been eaten away a little bit in my head, but at the same time, like I was aware that I wanted to get some driving experience first, so I got my car, and I think that's more my mom's influence as well. And then now after 3 or 4 years of driving a car, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to maybe start this journey of being a biker.
Do you think being a driver helped you with your CBT? Did that make it easier for you?
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, definitely. There was other people there at the CBT that didn't have that car experience, and although it is a completely different way of riding or driving even, it just helped like the basic things like your road sense and all of that. So yeah,
And
definitely
reading signs and all that.
reading
kind of
signs. Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Where did you do your CBT? And let's give the guys a shout out.
Absolutely, yeah. I did my CBT with guys in Rutherglen called Bike Right. Fantastic. Really, really can't recommend them more. They were amazing. I know you did it with Bike It in Paisley, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, isn't it?
He's trying to remember that far back.
I
I'm
know.
can't remember far back.
I'm old age.
Which are also amazing. But yeah, Bike Right. They're cool. I mean, they've actually done all of the Outlander cast, so it's kind of like a little bit of keeping it in the family. So they first did Sam, they've done Richard Rankin, and they've done me now. So the trilogy is complete.
The trilogies.
That's
Yeah.
what you said, wasn't it? The Outlander trilogy?
The Outlander trilogy, yeah.
There you go.
You can just see the outtakes for the next series of Outlander. You just hear bikes getting screamed across the. You know what I mean? Like, oh, there they go. The trio, the three amigos.
But yeah, it was a really nice and calm and yeah, good experience.
With that in mind, have you thought about what you're going to do next? Are you going to go big bike, DAS, theory test, or are you going to serve your apprenticeship on the 125?
Well, yeah, I want to get a little bit more experience on the bike because the focus I think you have to have on a bike is like completely different from a car. It's actually probably making me a better driver in a car now because I'm kind of always, there's that think bike thing, but it's true.
He's only been in it 4 days and he's learned that lesson. That everybody goes, oh my God, the amount of people you see on their phones putting their makeup on and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
Scary.
And I think like the first time I went out for a ride with you, Dad, there was one moment where somebody just didn't completely pay attention and
Just cut right in front of us.
And I wasn't, I was going the speed limit. You just had to be so attention to, I had a big L plates on, but still they just don't care. And it was like,
and you know what it's like when you're in a car, right? Somebody does that to you. Your first thing to do is to start going, start shouting and bawling. And if you try and do that in a bike, you can lose your concentration, you can lose your focus, and
completely.
And it's a scary thing to try and do. So, you learn. Well, I know I learned, and probably you'll find that yourself. You learn how to stay calm better.
Yep.
I find
idiots.
I don't know whether you find it or not, but I find I hate driving because when I'm driving in the car, everyone just annoys me, and I get that. Oh my God, I hate driving, and I think that's because I much rather be on a bike. And when I'm on the bike, you almost expect people to be idiots. You expect that? You expect people to be pull it in front of you, or actually look and go, oh, there's a bike coming, I'll go anyway. Do you know what I mean? And pull it in front of you, and that you just gonna go. It almost passes you by because you'd expected it.
Yeah.
Whereas the minute I get in the car, you then kind of go, how could you not see me? I'm in a bus. So
totally.
But that's interesting that you've only been at it for 4 days and you're already discovering that. It's those kind of things that we just take for granted that other road users sometimes, most of the times, are idiots.
Yeah. And that was the thing that I think Bike Right did as well. They kind of like put it into us. It was all about, really, your CBT is about learning how to think like a biker as much as getting a hold of like the controls and all of that. So they really, hammered in the fact that you got to be aware, so much more aware. But that's also kind of fun in a way too, because your focus is up. You are planning ahead. You are doing all of these things. So it's engaging in a way that I like.
I suppose it depends, because I don't think you're not shooting at the minute, are you?
No.
Right. So it'll be interesting to see when you go back to shooting whether if you notice that everything else just switches off.
Yeah.
And you get like even going out for half hour on the bike and then coming in. I know half hour. Who does half hours? But if you go out for half an hour on a bike and then come back in, you suddenly go, I can't remember what I was thinking about before I went out on that bike ride. Everything just seems to go. It's that because you're solely focused. Have you found that yet?
Fully experienced that the first time I went out with my dad. Yeah, it was like we got back and I was like, oh, so that was like an hour ride, and he's like, no, we were out for 3 hours.
Is that natural?
So there you go. What we have learned, right, is like bikes are like TikTok. You go,
that
I'm
is
just gonna
it.
have 5 minutes, and then next thing you go, whoa, what time is that? What happened to the last 3 hours?
There's this thing called like doom scrolling on TikTok, right? So like you either stop watching TikTok when your phone dies or when you die. So it's kind of like biking. Like you just go out and then either your bike runs out of gas or you run out of gas.
Aye, that's it.
That's
There
a
you
great
go.
way of putting it, actually.
This is the. You mean? I'm not going to explain TikTok for our older listeners out there, but for everybody else, biking's like TikTok. There you go. You've learned it here.
That's it.
Mental. In terms of style of bike, the Mutts. How would you describe the Mutt? It's the kind of retro-y. It's not unlike a Bonnie. It's just a little bit more.
Yeah,
it's like a
kinda
Bonnie
stripped down,
Scrambler.
stripped down in it. Yeah,
Aye.
it's you put it beautifully the other podcast there when you said it's like an old Steve McQueen bike.
It is like an old Steve
World War
McQueen bike.
II kind of it's got a matte finish and everything to it, the old brown leather seat and everything. It's just a gorgeous wee bit of retro chic.
Aye, retro chic.
Retro
That's
So
it.
chic.
And I suppose it's early days to ask you what would be the dream bike.
Well, his influence on me, it's, so what do you think it would be?
I am assuming that it would probably be, given your youth, I would think either a Thruxton RS because you're young enough to get away with that being bent over, or maybe a Speed Twin.
Okay. No. The thing that I think the image of the bike that has captured me the most has been the Triumph Bobber.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's what I see myself on.
He's got long arms and
At
long
this
legs,
moment.
so-
Aye.
Yeah.
I would. That's a great shout,
That's just my vibe, I feel. As you
That's a
said, you
great
know.
shout.
Yeah.
and it's such a comfy bike.
Is it? Okay.
Aye, it's
Mm.
really comfy. I was surprised because obviously the seat sits like almost floats in the air, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I thought there's no way my derry air's getting on there, but I actually sat on it and went, oh, that's quite comfy. So that's a really good choice of bike. I'm not surprised it's a Triumph.
Yeah, exactly.
mean?
Yeah.
I just that's
Brainwashing.
That's a Thruxton RS. So
That's a cool looking bike.
Aye.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just thought if I was coming 24, I would for me Thruxton, just because when we get to our age, reaching our and holding on to Thruxton, it would be a half-hour ride, and then I'd be like, oh, my back, quick, get me a paracetamol, my back's sore. Dream trip. Any particular roads that you've driven as a driver, or where you've been on holiday or whatever that you've thought, wow, and looking now, again, it's early days, but thinking that'd be great on a motorbike.
You know, actually, there's one that I've always thought about doing in a car, but now that I've had the biker bug a bit, biked the biker bug, it's the Mongol Rally. I'd love to do that on a bike.
The Mongol Rally?
The Mongol Rally, yeah.
This is news to me.
you've gone on. You've been.
I've always been
quite
dreaming
taken
about
that,
doing
yeah.
this. Yeah. So it's like a charity rally run by a company called The Adventurous, where basically you have to get yourself from London, England to Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia
Oh, wow.
in a car or a bike. But I think the engine of the bike has to be a particular size. It can't be something too crazy. It has to be kind of almost ridiculous.
You're not going
You
there.
know.
You're not going there in a supercharged H2.
No.
Is there not something like stupid light or something like a 125?
I genuinely think it
might
might be. Yeah, I think it might be.
or a 250 or something. Like that.
It can't be something too powerful, because like people do it in like their Nissan Micros if they're doing it in a car or something like that. You know, it has to be kind of ridiculous, but it's that adventure. So you have to like pick your route. You go from London, go across the channel, obviously, and then you decide, am I going through Russia? Am I going through the Middle East and through China up through Pakistan? Like, you have to decide what to do, and that just seems like the adventure of a lifetime.
Wow.
It's not quite.
And you do it for
66,
charity.
these days.
No. It's like route where?
Paha.
But then it would make sense you did it on a lightweight bike or a lightweight car, because I suppose there'll be a lot of, I mean, especially in Mongolia, there's probably large sections of that which obviously we talked about you and Charlie. We've seen you and Charlie doing it, a dozen or so years ago. And then I think the guys from Top Gear or the Grand Tour did it not that long ago. And it was still, there's lots of parts of it that still aren't, like, they're not proper like roads as such. But so that would explain, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
Why do I want to do that now? I've got loads of holidays left. When is it? Can you do it any time, or is it a specific time?
No,
of
it's a
year?
specific time of the year that they do it, and you all set off together. So I
Even
think,
better.
and I think it's like, so the rules are basically, you're completely on your own. You've got to raise £500 at least for charity. And if you're doing it in a car, you have to take it in a 1.2 engine or less. Don't know what it is specific. For motorbikes, we've generously allowed a 125.
Generously allowed on to
Gee, so
That's Sinis terrain. That's the poppy.
Sinister, aye, that would do
That
it.
Sinis terrain would be the poppy.
There'll probably be rules against the age of the bike or something. Maybe
I don't know. I don't think there's really, I think
I
that is
don't
the
know.
rules.
that'd be sinister. Would be
That'd be-
amazing for that.
I
wouldn't
think
it?
that'd be brilliant, but
Yeah.
just to go right, you know what? Because
To be fair, I think that sinister would almost feel like cheating, because it is such an adventure bike, if you know what I mean. But hey, it's in the rules.
yeah,
Go
do you
for
know what I
it.
mean? It's in the rules. Go for it. That's. I'm kind of intrigued by that now.
That'd be my road trip. Yeah.
That's a cool road trip.
Yeah.
You need to get your finger it, because you need to go with him.
I
And
would
he'll-
love
And
that.
he'll beat you.
Yeah, well,
Forget the wheelies. That sounds lit.
I'm
Susan,
okay with that.
you're watching the dog for 6 weeks. The boys are off. I wonder how long it would take you.
I think people usually do it in about 5 weeks, 4 weeks.
Better start saving my holidays and buying extra ones.
I better start learning how to fix a bike.
Yeah, that's the
That's a
major
good
thing.
point.
Yeah.
You know?
That is a good point.
I suppose, mind you, then like the mutter, 125s, they'll be easy to repair. Probably pretty easy to kind of.
Because there'll just be single engines,
Single
so
engine,
it's
aye.
no. I think the worst thing is if something electric happened, but
Mhm.
as long as you knew your way around about the electrics and say, well, something's not right there. And be
As
able
long
to
as you
use a
could fiddle
cable.
with your loom.
What?
Do you often fiddle? No, let's not go there. Let's not go there. Let's end that there. I don't have any other questions because I didn't want to bombard you on your first night.
That's pretty cool.
You know what I
though.
mean? Aye.
I'm
The-
going to
the
ask you a
Mongol
question.
Rally
Then,
is just
right? I'm going to
amazing.
ask you a question, then, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's Outlander related, right?
I thought he was going to say, how much will you sell your mongrel for once you buy it?
I'll just keep going because I'll make a comment about that. So, out of all the cast members that you have had in Outlander, who would you like to go on a motorbike road trip with as another biker, whether they ride a bike or not?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Mm.
So let's assume everyone in Outlander can ride a motorcycle. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which one do you think would be the most fun to go on an adventure with on a bike?
Oh, that's a good question. Assuming it's not just out of the bikers.
No, not just
No,
out the
Because
bike.
out of the bikers, it would be Big Sam. Because, I mean, we kept it in the family. He did sell me his bike. So that was Sam Hewen's bike that he gave to me.
And nothing against Big Sam, but I watched the Men in Kilts,
Yeah.
and he seems quite competitive.
Mm.
The slagging off of each other is pretty competitive, isn't it?
Oh, totally. And then, but the minute they did the thing with at the rugby, you know what I mean, or the Highland Games, it's like he got really competitive. And I'd be one of those ones that you would go along the road and all of a sudden, woof, off he went. You
Yeah,
thought,
definitely.
it's not a race. We're both going to the same place. You know what I mean?
I know.
I'm not chasing you.
Yeah. My tea will just be a bit colder,
Aye.
and I'll get to enjoy my scone longer. That's it.
Aye. Or first one there buys the first round.
But yeah, gosh, out of everybody, I think Maria would be pretty fun to go on a bike trip with. Maria Doyle Kennedy, because she'd provide the music and she'd provide the singing and all that along, and she's always a great laugh. So I'd pick Maria. There you go.
I think that's a fantastic shout. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think she's probably one of my favourite people in it, but for one reason and one reason only.
What would that reason be?
She was in a commitment.
There we go.
Aye. You could just see you going, can you sing that song?
What a karaoke. What a
Sing that
karaoke.
song. What a karaoke.
Karaoke. So that's a good show, actually. Aye, that'd be great.
Yeah.
But obviously not as her character, Jocasta, because she's blind. That would cause you some issues.
Yeah, probably.
Doesn't make for a good skill when you're riding a bike.
No, absolutely not. I mean, when Roy Orbison said sang he drove all night, how did he know?
I don't.
How did he know it was night?
I think his butler drove him.
Is that what it was?
I think he's a butler.
So, how did he know? Drove all night? Could have drove all day. Yeah, how did he know?
Anyway,
Yeah.
welcome aboard. You're officially an average biker.
It's an absolute pleasure, guys. Thank you. I feel just
Although
wonderfully average.
Although I don't know what we're going to talk about because the last umpteen episodes has been like John CBD's coming up, John CBD's coming up, John CBD's coming up, and it's when you went 4 days ago, and it was like, is that all? We've been talking about this for months.
I guess it's John's theories coming up and John's bike test.
John's
is coming
theories.
up.
Yeah,
Mod 1 and Mod 2.
You keep us going, John. You keep us going.
Absolutely.
Your progress.
I know we're running low on material, so that would be a great idea.
Aye.
You know what I mean,
Any chance you can do another course or some kind, just because we're running out of things to talk about, that'd be great. You know what I mean?
the joys. But
Is there anyone you would like to give a shout out to on the podcast that we can then like kind of tag and hashtag and do all that kind of stuff? Anyone you want to say?
he's got to thank Big Sam for an awesome deal on that
absolutely.
mongrel.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And Sam, if you're listening, if you get any spare, me and Ian we're interested in buying
When-
one as
when
well.
you're getting rid of your Triumph and your Harley, mate, just give us a wee shout, just leave them at the front door. That'd be great. Cheers.
Yeah, big shout out to Sam and a big shout out to Richard as well, Richard Rankin. We are now the three amigos on bikes from the Outlander crew. So, yeah.
That would be interesting to see. Sombreros, spangly, wee dance routine.
Una guitarra.
Aye.
And what was very cool was when John went out, you posted on Instagram, didn't you, after that run for Largs and everything like that?
Yeah.
And everybody was getting like super engaged with it, because obviously there's like massive Outlander fans out there all over the world, and loads of them love the fact you were on the bike and all
Love
that.
my fans and supporters.
Yeah,
yes.
they're amazing, right? And they're so nice and so lovely to you, and everything, but they're all saying things like, "Be careful, John. love the bike,
know.
look after yourself, So it's really nice
I
to
hope
have
you're wearing gloves. And to the person that said that, I am wearing gloves. It's just you can't take a photo with your gloves on.
that. Yeah,
You've got to take it off. So
No.
I do wear gloves out there.
But I think what would be nice is what get cool is a lot of them wanted you to end up being in Men in Kilts with Sam for a special episode.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah,
That would be quite cool, Men in Bikes. And
Graham's
kilts.
getting a bit old now. Bring the young people in, spice it up a bit.
Aye, either that or they need to get a little special seat right in the middle.
Oh,
So
between the
they
two
get-
of them.
Between the two of them. Like, hey. Actually, that's just before when you would go off on a tangent. Who do you think is going to be next for the Outlander cast to do their CBT?
That's a good show.
Because there seems to be it's kind of knock on effect.
It's
It's that John's done his and he loves it. Oh, maybe I'll do mine.
Yeah.
you
Well,
go.
actually, the lovely Paul Donnelly, who is one of Jamie's men, who does Paul play again? So the lovely Paul Donnelly, who plays Ronnie Sinclair, he has expressed interest that he will be doing his CBT next. So come join the Outlander biker gang. We should have like a biker gang name.
You're going to need a WhatsApp group.
Yeah.
What's that group? And also a regular feature as guest co-host on Average Bikers in the Cave.
I'll see what I can do.
I might need to get a bigger cave. I'll definitely need to get my microphones. Or one big massive condenser to get us on there. Aye, that's interesting. But it's quite good though that you've also got that many social media followers that the chances are you're probably inspiring others to look at doing CBTs or getting interested in bikes.
Definitely, yeah.
And that's good because I think I'm a massive advocate of the biking community needs to be bigger. Because
And again, going back to what we talked about, the check-in, just things like, Gavin in Wales, just doing that thing.
Exactly.
Just that kind of, I'm a biker, that biker needs a bit of help, boom.
Aye, it's one of those ones. If how many times have you been even just pulled outside the road, and you might just be stopping for a rest, but a biker will go by and he'll actually slow down just to check you're all right.
Be thumbs up.
Everyone all right? Aye, cool, right, and both, and away they go again. You don't get that in a car.
No.
Folk just drive straight by you. They don't have that.
Couldn't care less.
No, exactly. And it's that kind of thing that just restores your faith in humanity a little bit. You know what I mean? That people actually do care. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And especially in the biking community.
Especially, I think there's this kind of there's this outward look on bikers as kind of this toxic masculinity kind of side of
The
things,
Hells
and
Angels
Hells
things and all that.
Angels and gangs and criminals. Actually, in reality, it's the complete opposite. I'm
Aye.
sure there's that side of things, but there's that side of things in everything, you know.
Exactly.
But actually, that's the thing I came down to when I was the first time out on the bike with Dad, is that every biker you came across to give you a wee nod, a wee bit of appreciation, and you felt
See,
it's cool.
They don't teach you that in your CBT.
they don't, but
And it's the minute you go out and you go, he just nodded at me.
yeah.
Why is he nodding at me? Maybe it's the L plates, and then the next one, and then the next one, and then you go, oh, it's a thing.
It's
a
a
nod back.
It's a
thing.
thing.
It's a thing.
But then obviously, I'm assuming you educated them that might happen.
Yes.
Aye.
Well, I did it whenever you're on pillion. You would say, "There's
That's
another
the
nod."
first time.
Aye,
Yeah.
aye,
I love
that's
this,
true.
John. Yeah, I love this. I love this. This
Yeah,
is
I do.
great.
It's
Everybody's
so
great.
cool, isn't it?
It is.
You know.
You know what I mean? We're not going to.
I know how much people like a wave. I try and wave more than nod if I can.
Yes.
I'm
I'm a waver rather than a
Yeah.
nodder. Unless I'm in a bend. In
Yeah.
which case, you know what I mean?
No, I think I got quite excited the first guy that or girl that did it as they walked past, as they drove. Let me start that again. I got quite excited.
You know that's not getting edited though, don't you?
No, I know.
Just saying.
I got quite excited, and I wanted to give them a wee wave, but I took my hand off the throttle instead. So,
I'm slowing down. Easily done.
yeah,
We've all
It's
done
just
it.
the excitement.
We've all done it.
It's the excitement of
yeah.
I'm in the gang. It's the aye.
We've all
I
done it.
I think I had about 30 miles before I realised, no, everybody just nods at you. That's quite cool. I like that. But aye. And plus it's better. Everybody should be on bikes anyway. It's better for the environment.
Yep.
Which means we might actually get summers like this all the time. Which means you can go on your bike more. It's a big loop. Welcome aboard, mate.
Thank you.
Good to have you here. Are we going to dive straight in? I think we just dive
Just
straight
let's
in.
dive straight
Just
in,
dive
so-
straight in.
To our big question. You've got a thing of that, haven't you?
I do have a thing.
There you go. That's the thing. There you
Nice.
go.
I got sidetracked with
So this big question is more about just a chit chat, and John, chip in what you think with this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? I know you don't have a massive knowledge all the types of bikes out there. I don't have a massive knowledge of all the types of bikes out there, but I do know what I like and what I don't like, and why I like it and why I don't like it. And this is not about anything other than just our opinions, and this is not about any particular bike being bad or good. It's just about what we like and what we don't like.
No, and there'll be a couple of bikes in here that you'll definitely know.
Aye, absolutely. So with all the bikes kicking about that we've got, and with all the styles, we thought what we're going to do is we're going to think best bikes, or favourite bikes, or whatever you want to call it. And we thought we'd do something a bit different. So it's what would we have and what would we not have in our garage. And again, as I said, it's a personal choice, and because there's in the modern world there isn't really a bad bike. Do you know what I mean?
No, there's too many standards.
There's no such thing as a bad bike, but there's a load of bad drivers. So, you know what I mean? And that's not riders, I mean drivers, as in car drivers. Do you know what I mean? You know,
which we all are.
Yes.
We mean one of those.
So, and I've done a bit of homework in a lot of the categories. There might be a couple of categories I've not done my homework on. So, if I do that, I'll just pontificate over choices and make it up as I go along.
Or you could just just go, oh, I totally agree with you.
That's probably, if you hear me saying I totally agree with Dan, then fine, well, because I never did agree with Dan, so that's fine.
No, that's not true.
That's not true. We tend to agree.
We tend to agree with
things,
most.
to be honest.
The big question is the dullest bit of the show, to be honest, because we never ever kind of.
We kind of go, yeah, I think you're right, Dan. Oh yeah, I think you're right. I think you're
What's
right.
the conclusion? We're both right. Oh,
Because we're both saying the same thing. Yeah.
Aye.
Cool. Right, let's go for it. So,
Dun, dun, dun.
dun, dun. Adventure bikes, or as we like to call it, the Ewan and Charlie bike.
I call it
West Coast Harley Charlie.
West Coast Harley Charlie.
West Coast Harley Charlie. Go for it.
You want me to go first?
What's your
Money no object?
Yep, go for it.
Ducati V4 Multistrada. It's expensive to buy. It's expensive to insure. It's expensive to service. However, 170 brake horsepower, 240. It shifts. It sounds amazing. The full S-Spec, of course, with the upgraded exhaust, comes in at 23 grand.
Nice. I totally agree with you, Darren.
However, I would still have one. Again, money in the object, I would have one, because out of all the adventure bikes, you don't see loads of them on the road. And I've been fortunate enough to see, there's a guy that I ride with at IM has got one with the upgraded exhaust, the top of the range, and it just sounds amazing, and it looks good. It has that nice Ducati rumble to it. It's for me, with a V4 Multistrada all day long. And I get adventure bikes, to some people, aren't the most attractive things in the world because they are like scaffolding. Do you know what I mean, with panniers on them? But that's definitely a bit of something about it.
I think it's a big adventure bike. Yeah, absolutely, and I can understand. But you know what I'm going to say, don't you?
Triumph Tiger.
Correct. The 900 Rally. Yeah. So
Great bike.
The for me though, again, you can go through all the specs and everything, but it's not about the specs to me. For me, especially with Triumph, it's just that iconic name of Triumph. So there's probably a couple of Triumphs in here, as you can imagine, for me.
Really?
Yeah,
would never have guessed.
Carol surprise. Edinburgh
Triumph. If you're listening, just give Ian a bike and shut him up, will you?
I know, absolutely. So it's iconic. But all adventure bikes come with a big caveat for me, right? And this is a big caveat. It's a family show, so please do not read into this, but it's whether or not I can get my leg over, right? So absolutely,
It's old age, mate.
they're big, tall bikes for folk with a
Big long leg.
long
inside leg.
And I know the Tiger 900 Rally, you can get it lowered and you can get a lower seat and everything. And I know from a spec perspective, that should mean I can put my foot in the ground. I might be on the balls of my feet, but I should definitely put my foot in the ground. That's also a big plus for me. I wouldn't want to go and get a Multistrada and I can't touch the ground. You know what I mean? So
Can't touch it.
can't touch this. MC Multistrada, can't touch this. Anyway, so that for me is that. There you go. That's my adventure bike, Triumph Tiger 900 Rally. There you go, and that's why.
So
Doesn't even come in yellow.
Why would you have it? It's coming yellow. However, my bike that I wouldn't have.
Yep, go for it.
Does come in yellow. I wouldn't have the Moto Guzzi V85 TT because personally, if anyone's got it out there, fair play. Moto Guzzis are great. Get a really good owners club, all that kind of good stuff. However, I just think it's a bit ugly. and it's a bit underpowered. My bike's a lot underpowered. It's like 85 brake horsepower and an adventure bike.
Yeah, it's
Quite. I mean, it'll get there, but if you're going to cross Europe, there's certain stretches of road in a certain country where adventure bikes are king that you can go at any speed you like, except if you get one of these, because I don't think it would get at that speed. So
that's a good point.
you should Google one of those. It looks like a duck. For the front, it looks like a duck.
Like a duck.
It looks like a duck. Look, Google the Moto Guzzi V85 TT. It looks like a duck.
Yeah.
So that's the one I would have.
Yeah.
I'm being really pedantic, right? Because I'll caveat now, a lot of these bikes I struggled to find one I wouldn't have, but then
Do you know what?
that's just
You're right,
me.
and
I'm going,
I think
"Let's
it's the
have
reasons.
that."
I think the point is, as you say, there's no bad bikes in the modern bike era, really.
No, it's just personal. For
Personal
me,
choice.
personally speaking, would not have the duck bike,
Yeah.
the Guzzi.
And for me,
Yes.
and I've said earlier on, I might end up being a wee bit of a Kawasaki basher, but the Kawasaki Versus, right?
Yes.
I wouldn't have it. Now, I've got a friend who has one, swears by it. It's an amazing bike. It's got great features and everything. But to me, it is the bike that adventure bikers of a certain age and a certain kind of...
I was torn between the Guzzi and the Versys, because
and
the Versys just Disney
It's
and
just-
the
it's like-
V-Strom.
It's like...
I was looking at the three of them going,
And it's like you look at it and you go, do you know, I cannot fault the bike technically. I cannot fault all the stuff it
and
does.
it'll run for miles and miles and miles without any issue.
It's like one of the top 10 MCN adventure bikes and everything, but it just says to me, blue rims. Do you know what I mean? Sorry, Hugh, mate. I'm no slagging you off, mate. It's a brilliant bike, but it's just no. It's not. It doesn't excite me. It doesn't make my
I bought a Kawasaki Versys and I got a free blue rims.
three blue rinse and twin second pedals. Do you know what I mean? Sorry, I'm sorry for all the Kawasaki riders out there. And if I've ruined our whole kind of subscription base because of saying that, it is a brilliant bike, but it's just no me.
Aye, midweek is going to
I'd
be.
actually-
How's that episode getting on?
No.
Nah, two folk have listened to it, you and me,
It's,
and that was
you
it.
know, I'd rather take something that's actually technically a bit dodgy. You know, so like, you know, when you're looking at the Pan American, for instance, where it's a new engine and you know, and there is a lot of, you know, people decrying it, and there's a lot of kind of ifs and buts about this, the safety of the engine, and you know, all these kind of things, and you know, there's all this kind of bits of information out there about that. I would rather take a risk on something that's a bit funky and a bit weird, and it's a bit kind of like what was it? That the Moto Guzzi.
That's the duck one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in yellow though. I quite like that. So, but it's just it's just a bit safe and sensible for me, you know, because it is actually so good at what it does.
Aye.
You know, I'd rather take a wee bit of a edge to it. There you go. Sorry,
You're
Hugh.
such an edgy guy, right?
It's not that he just doesn't want the blue rims.
I don't want blue rims. Sorry, Hugh. Sorry, Hugh. But and next time you go, give me a shout and I'll get your scone.
The day you buy a Versys, I'm going to start calling you Phyllis. Moving on,
Right.
the naked bike.
Right, naked. I've got my notes for that. Right.
Oh, right, okay.
Okay.
What, the naked bike?
Yeah.
Right, okay. Just checking.
Ducati Monster. That's it.
Aye.
Do I need to say any more
No.
than that? The new one, see about that LED lamp and everything, it just looks like it would start a fight in a bar. Do you know what I mean? Doesn't it? It's just a beautiful, beautiful looking piece of, and it's like, it's just probably, it's like you're getting close to what bikes look like in Tron. Do you know what I mean? It's just super sleek and
I'll tell you an
fancy and sci-fi. I just love it. I just love the look of it.
I'll tell you an interesting story. I went to school with a girl who ended up working for Ducati, and she's had bikes obviously all days. And when I was looking at my first big bike, I messaged her and said, "Listen, what do you think possible first? Just try to get as much information as possible. What do you think good first bike? Blah blah blah." And that was the short reply: "Get a Monster." I was like, "Well, what one?" Because there was so many variants of the Monster.
Yeah.
And she was like, "It doesn't matter. Just get a Monster. They're brilliant." And had Ducati let me test drive one, I would probably have got a Monster. But they didn't, because they were like, "Oh no, you've only had your license 5 minutes. We'll not let you out on it." But I was the Monsters.
It's that big whole kind of circular, but I mean, it looks a wee bit like the Demogorgon for Stranger Things at the front.
Well,
but
we had this conversation.
Mike Wazowski a little bit too. No,
a wee bit Mike Wazowski, but I love Monsters Inc., so I'm not going to complain. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I just love it. Because it's edgy, it's quirky, it's a wee bit different looking than
And we spoke
about
this a couple of episodes back.
Aye.
The monster essentially created the naked bike.
Aye.
The naked bike wasn't a thing until the monster came, and it was that whole scaffolding frame exposed and all that kind of stuff, and that kind of birthed the modern naked genre.
and I assume that's what, like, minimal things on the bike.
Aye, it doesn't have a lot of fairing. It doesn't have that plasticky
No.
kind of front bit. It doesn't. It's just normal tiles. You can see the
Yeah,
swing
yeah.
arm and all that kind of stuff.
has,
Literally, it's just the tank and the seat, and then the rest just.
And
They
now
are
and now they're
exposed.
getting more stylised again, but you know they're exposing all that stuff. It's a big feature now of the newer bikes.
Yep.
And then they're putting on a lot more kind of modern, funky bits like the lights and everything. I mean that light to me looks like it could come off of the engine of a Star Trek spaceship or something like that. You know
Yep.
what I mean?
Personally, I think they look awesome though. Yeah,
Aye.
yeah.
Just amazing.
And,
John,
and it
first big bike.
sounds amazing as well.
Yeah,
'cause
maybe you
the
don't want a
cat is
bobber.
on.
I don't know.
No, you still want a bobber.
Maybe you want one of each.
I would still get a bobber.
Maybe you want one of each. Who knows? Right, what's yours?
I've went the complete opposite, believe it or not. And I was going to pick the monster, and I thought, however, and you're going to hate this, I like the Kawasaki H2 Super Naked. It's like 197 brake, supercharged. Hello, cause let's think.
Yep.
15 grand. Again, it's a bit more dearer, but it's again a bit more. It's a bit more. It's definitely dearer than the MT10, which is a great bike, and you know I'm a massive fan. I do like the Yamaha. I like Yamis. However, sheer power and the fact that it looks like a Decepticon, that's winning it for me every time. Would I have the bottle to ride one? I'd probably learn because it's an awfully quick bike.
I'll be honest.
Did you know I have one, Dad?
I had a Kawasaki Ninja, yeah, but it wasn't naked.
So the Ninja's that's essentially the Ninja's the
Fading one.
Aye, it's the and I think they do the failed.
They do an H2 Ninja, yeah.
You
But
mean?
and I did look at that. To be fair, I'm not actually upset with you
Oh.
about the Kawasaki Ninja. I'm not upset with Kawasaki's. It's just, you know, for me, a Kawasaki is a fast Ninja, fast super bike, right? I expect that. I don't expect Kawasaki to be an adventure bike. Do you know what I mean? And exactly. So that kind of and because
We're going round the world.
so I'm not. I know what you mean about going opposite. I don't. You know, I actually really like. I did consider that. To be fair, I did consider it, but anything that looks like a Star Trek spaceship to me, it's going to win.
Aye, for me, Monster, the Kawa or the MT10, the SP one, I was torn between them all because they are. I mean, there's no bad bike, so it's then just down to the little. And for me, the only reason I said H2 is because it looks like it's going to transform and beat you up for a pair of glasses you put on eBay.
Aye.
Do you know what I mean? So
It's a bit of a beast, isn't it?
Ladies Man 217. Aye.
Worst one?
Worst one?
No, not worst, but the one you wouldn't want.
Yes.
I've just
we're
gone-
not saying worst. We're
I've just
saying one I
gone.
wouldn't have.
I've gone for the Suzuki SV650, right? Because it's like, and that now. But you know what I've done? No, I've put a caveat here. Great first bike, you know, budget wise,
Amazing first bike.
amazing first bike. But you maybe have it for 6 months and get something better. So you know, and that my first bike was a Suzuki, and I had it for years, right? And you know, like. And you know, and your Gixxers and all that, they're fantastic bikes. But the SV650 is, to me, it kind of doesn't know what it wants to be.
Aye.
You know, is it?
It
wants
does.
to
It
be
doesn't.
fast,
It
but it's-
doesn't like the heather.
Aye.
No.
So there you go.
And I've went down the similar route.
I've written
not with the
I've
Suzuki.
written lax sexy.
Like sexy.
That's what I've said. Lax sexy. I want a sexy.
There's
bike.
like something I want to say there, but I'm not quite sure what
If
it
I
is.
can't personally look sexy, I at least want my bike to look kind of sexy.
I would rather be a chubby middle-aged man on a sexy bike and people not notice me and go, wow, that bike's beautiful, other than going, look at that, he looks like a monkey on a trike. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And he's like, and he's no, it's just no. I don't want to look like something at the circus. I'd much rather people didn't notice me and notice the bike. But I've went for the similar ilk. I've just went for, again, in Yamaha. I love my Yamahas. My first bike was Yamaha. But the MT-07, I would not have the MT-07.
Do you know what? I consider the MTs as well. You know what I mean? But I did it way upside down. So
Well, see, to be honest, right?
Tio loves his MTs, doesn't he? So
See, but he had a Tracer 900,
aye.
right? Which is essentially an MT-09, but just it's a wee bit more. It's a wee bit more toury. You can do a bit more with it. And if I was going to go out and buy my first bike, I would not look at the MT-07. I would just go straight to the Tracer or the MT-09, purely because you're not going to get bored with the MT-07. And I did my lessons. I did my DAS on an MT-07, and it was nearly capable enough. But the minute you pass your test, and here's a word of warning, the minute you pass your test and you get that bike, don't buy a bike for the sake of buying a bike, because the minute you get bored with it, and you'll get bored really quickly of a bike, I mean, it doesn't have enough power, that you'll outgrow really quickly. And the MT-07, unfortunately for me, sits in that category. Do you know what I mean? I would probably much rather buy the Tracer or an 821 Monster, something that's got a bit more ilk, that it's got more than enough power for me to grow into. And then once I'm fully grown into it, it's still got more than enough power. Yeah, albeit you might be, I mean, using the higher end of the power band a lot more. However, you're not going to have it for 6 months and then go, I shouldn't have bought this. I made a mistake. Sorry.
Yeah.
And then you're going to either lose money on it, or you're going to need to try and offload it, or
But you've also
sell
got
it, or sell it to your old man.
But you also got to balance that with budgets. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
And your Suzuki SV650 is at the lower end of the budgets for people buying their first big bike. You know, and when you look at the price of that versus a Monster or something, you know, you're obviously going to, you know, and again, they're all good bikes. And they're all great bikes, but you know, you know, but the SV650, the new one looks like the kind of one that you would learn to ride on. You would do your DAS on. Do you know what I mean?
Just no.
Not for you.
No, not for me.
What's next?
Steve McQueen category. Retro.
Retro.
You want me to go first then?
Yeah, you go first.
For me, I do like the CCM Spitfires, which
That's what I've got.
What?
CCM Spitfire.
Is it?
Love them.
Well, see, I was going to go that route, right? And John, if you haven't seen CCM Spitfire, that's a thing of beauty. But I sat down and I thought about it, and long and hard I thought about it. And you know what I come up with?
What?
Triumph T120 Black Edition. If I was getting a retro, I would get a T120 Bonnie. Tons of heritage.
I kind of get Triumph in far too many other categories, I think, so I kind of stayed away for that one. Do you know what I mean? I went for the Spitfire, right? But the really kind of cut down, kind of almost like, they kind of come under a bobber category as well.
Well, they did a bobber, and they did a flat tracker, and I mean, they did a few kind of different variants, but
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, and I just always remember seeing that one in Triumph. It was like the Spitfire. It was kind of goldy.
the 6.
Aye,
Yep.
it was just a lovely modern old fashioned bike. So I was like, yeah, love it.
See, either way.
But I'd go with the Triumph as well. Totally, Triumph. I mean, so much of Triumph's a retro look.
I know, but for me, that was the swing of because CCM they've been going a wee while, but it was all motocross and stuff at the start up until kind of early 2000s. Then they started doing the whole Spitfire range, whereas the T120 Bonnie, it's been about for decades, and so you're getting that heritage. I think it's a bike you would ride and go, I feel part of like an institution.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Because it is, because they still all T120 engines still get put into custom bikes like today. I think Henry Cole's Gladstone bikes that he was building are all original T120 engines that they had to source for all over the world. So it's a good engine. It's just I don't know. That's what swung it for me. But I get the CCM thing because I'm with you. That's a bike you could buy. You could ride it for a year and sell it for the same money, if no more. Same with the Steve McQueen Scrambler. I'm going to get that in every week up until Triumph came
I thought about the Steve McQueen Scrambler, right? To put it in there, but I'm going, is it retro or is it, is it more Scrambler?
It's a modern Scrambler.
It's a modern Scrambler. John, Google the Steve McQueen Scrambler.
Oh, aye.
It's
And it's
You
not like
know.
that. It's not like that. You get an actual certificate of authenticity signed by the CEO of Triumph and Steve McQueen's son, and his
Nice.
signature is laser etched into the actual
It's geek heaven.
the handlebars. It's just
That's epic. That's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
that's bike porn right there. For me, not have, and I'm going to be mega controversial. Any new Norton?
Do you know what? I went Royal Enfield, to be honest, but you know,
You
I
did
just-
not.
I did. I just don't. I don't know why. I just think it's like, again, it's not that they're bad. It's just that it's what.
It's just not you.
It's just no. It's to me. It's what you get if you don't know what you like. But but society dictates it. The Royal Enfields are a lovely example of old-fashioned bikes. It's for somebody that doesn't. It's for somebody that doesn't try very hard to look. That's kind of why I'm there. Do you know what I mean?
Aye.
No offense to Royal Enfield, because
No,
I
just that new 650 engine that's in the Interceptor on the Continental
yeah.
is a great engine, and I think the last 2 years, Royal Enfield, those bikes have been the biggest sellers in the UK. But again, it's because I don't want to say they're cheap, right? But it's a good price, and it's
Aye.
a lot of bike for what you get, and they're starting to do a lot of kind of bits and bobs for it these days. So, but I get where you're coming from. It's
As you say, they're great bikes, right, and great price range, and do look really good, but they look exactly how a retro bike should look, if that makes sense, to the point that, in the same way that a couch, a nice big comfy couch, looks like a big comfy couch, but it doesn't get you excited. There you go.
well, depends who's sitting on the couch.
True.
Again. Hell's Angel category. So the Cruiser.
The Cruiser.
For me, it's got to be a Harley.
Yep.
Because the daddies of the cruiser market, they've kind of got it pretty much nailed. But what one to go for? Because there's loads of them out
And
there.
we're talking about touring and we're talking about cruisers. Well, how would you define the difference between a touring bike and a cruiser bike?
Cruiser, legs out, pedals out, front,
Out front.
big, either a big, wide or high handlebar.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have the same comfort that a tourer's got. A
Aye.
tourer's kind of got panniers on it. It can be a bit nimble, but it's a bit more refined. And there were guys out there screaming at the podcast right now going, I beg to differ. You could get a Street Glide Special. It has panniers and it's very comfortable and it's a big giant seat, and going, aye.
I
but
was,
the handlebars
yeah,
are still up there, so for me it's a cruiser.
'cause
Your legs are about there.
I'm
Still a cruiser.
kind of defining cruiser, right? As you say, big comfy seat and everything, legs out. And so would you put your Triumph in there?
What one?
Well, my favourite one, the big Marlon Brando-esque.
Oh, the Rocket.
Aye,
The Rocket I would class as a cruiser.
yeah, because that's to me, right?
I would class that
The
as
black, the Rocket,
Aye.
the black, yeah.
but then it could fall. That's a
Could it
tricky
fall
one
into a
because it could fall in because
the
for-
touring, or could it fall into?
it could fall into both categories. I'm going to be
Yeah.
honest, right? Because it's up there with the Goldwing.
So I've fun enough, and we'll get to touring, and
Yep.
I've kind of gone with that for touring as
Yep.
opposed to the Rocket for cruiser. Do you know what I mean?
Well, the touring category is going to be dull, but
Aye,
yeah,
well, will be dull because, but touring to me there are a bit dull touring bikes. I know, I don't want. Sorry, Darren, but and I don't mean that. It's got a tour. They're a bit dull in sense of I know that's me. I've just ruined
that's a beautiful friendship tarnished.
average bruisers in a cave. So and it's not
average
it's not
biker. in a cave.
Dull's no the word. Yeah,
No, I know what you mean, but
but you know what I mean. It's
it's not exactly. It's more functional.
functional. Aye.
Yes.
So Rocket for me.
Street Bob.
Mm.
I came to the conclusion that it needs to be a Street Bob.
Yep.
Which just by standard has a chunky seat on it,
Yeah.
and it's single seat. Which to me, a cruiser ideally should be single seat because it's just you in the open road, and
Mhm.
you know what I mean, with a headband on, and you know what I mean, whatever playing in the background
Yeah.
with it, Creedence Clearwater Revival or whatever. But it comes as standard with kind of mini apes on it, so your hands are up that
Mhm.
little bit, so you've got that whole Sons of Anarchy mine feel to it.
Yeah.
And the new Street Bob rides beautifully. Actually, it's quite comfy. So I went down that route. And if you really want to make it noisy, put a big set of Vance and Hines on it and wake your neighbours up at 6 a.m. when you're leaving.
What about your not having an in then? Not what would you not have?
I've jumped on the Ian bandwagon.
Yeah.
Kawasaki, the Vulcan S.
I don't like it.
It's a nice. It's a nice.
Again, it's
nice looking in the flesh, kinda. Matter of fact, I've changed my mind. I'm going to change my mind. Harley Davidson Sportster Iron 883. Why? Because I had one. That was my first big
I
bike.
like that.
Nah, horrible. Too heavy. It was beautifully noisy.
It sounded great.
Used to say.
To be fair, I never rode it. I'd only sat on it, so I've never experienced it as an actual bike, but I liked it.
And I'm being quite specific here. I'm saying the bog standard Iron 883. Not, put a stage 1 on it, it's that bit quicker. You still need to manhandle it round corners.
Mm-hmm.
You still kind of hoof it round corners. But if I was to go back, I should have bought a 1200. Because the 1200 had a bit more power, a wee bit more refinement. It just, it was the better bike. So for me, in that cruiser section, 883, bog standard 883. But mine was, and I loved it. It was a lovely looking bike and stuff like that. And I got bored with it so quick because it was underpowered.
Yeah. You changed that very quickly.
Aye. Used to set off car alarms in the car park at work.
It was.
That's how loud it was.
That was what it was good for. But you did change it very quickly, and I think that's probably, again, back to talking about when you get your big bike, be careful what you get because you can get bored with it really quickly.
Yep.
I've got the Kawasaki down, right? So, and just for the very same reasons,
just stop Kawasaki. It's just not worth it.
Just bring out lots of ninjas. You know what I mean?
Concentrate on what you do well. The ninja. You know what I mean? I think this one should be fairly easy. The bobber category.
The bobber category.
I'm going to say to John, take a wild guess what's that coming up here.
I've got two because your retro and your CCM Spitfire, which is also the bobber version, I've got in there, but I've obviously got a bobber black. Of course I have. Of course I've got bobber black, and the only reason I put the CCM Spitfire in there was because in case for some reason you took to the retro category, then I was going to argue about it. But bobber black because it's a Triumph bobber black.
I, surprisingly enough, went doing exactly the same route. Triumph bobber black all day long.
Yeah.
Without shadow of a doubt. I looked at the Indian Scout bobber because I sat on one years ago, and it's really comfy and it's really vicious. And apparently riding it for half an hour is like, it's like nothing else because it's like, Wah! It's totally angry. But you look at it and then look at the bobber black and go, no, Triumph still wins yet again.
Yep.
It's without a shadow of a doubt. If you're going to buy a first bike, I would buy a bobber black with the no questions asked. That's what I would have one in my garage. Might still, if I can talk the wife into a second bike that she can get on, although she doesn't like it. No, for looks, I don't think she would ride it. For the wouldn't have in this category, it's quite tricky because all the bobbers out there are actually really nice looking bikes.
Yeah, well, I kind of went with one that calls itself a bobber, but it doesn't look like one.
Yep.
And that's why I picked it.
What'd you go for?
The Moto Guzzi V9 bobber, which doesn't look like a bobber.
I know, you're right. It doesn't look like a bobber.
I find it so hard to not like a bobber that I don't like that I had to go with one that doesn't look like a bobber.
I get where you're coming from. Don't call it a bobber, it's not a bobber.
It's not a bobber, so don't call it a bobber. So
no.
that's why I don't like it.
I couldn't really think of one. The only thing I thought was maybe that Harley were putting the 48 in the bobber category because again single seat and all that kind of stuff. In which case I wouldn't have one because
it's not even got a single seat. The Moto Guzzi bobber.
Was it an A seat?
No, it doesn't look anything like a bobber.
That's not a bobber. That's more retro.
Right?
Moto Guzzi, sort yourself out.
Exactly. So that's why I put it in there. It's a bit of a cop out, to be fair. Do you know what I mean? I've picked the bobber that isn't a bobber. So,
but if they're calling it a bobber, you know what I mean? That's just no. I'm changing my mind. Harley 48, that's all right. That I'm with you. That Gucci's just no.
Yep.
That's just no.
Cool. Right.
Cafe Racer. What have you got?
Thruxton RS. Or the Ducati Scrambler, which is the Cafe Racer Ducati with the light blue and the silver and the wee number and the wee white number on the side. It's just, I just love it. I just love the look of it. And there's a guy along the road in Kilmacombe that's got one, and it sits in his. And every time I take the dogs for a walk and I walk by, I go, "Yeah, I really like you. I really, really like you.
Never met the guy.
Lovely.
No,
never met the guy.
Never met the guy. I don't know what it looks like. He's got one of them. He's nice.
But I couldn't not say Thruxton RS. So, do you know what I mean? So, there we go.
And I did put the Thruxton RS because, again, it's beautiful, it's fast, and Tom Hardy's got one, so I'm going to be funny. If people were going to notice me on it, they would just go, oh, that's that bike Tom Hardy's got. But I actually didn't. And this contradicts what you said, but for me, I do like the Royal Enfield Continental GT. I don't think it's as aggressive as the Thruxton, because the Thruxton's quite 4 hour, and I'm too old for that. The Continental's a wee bit more upright, and again, if you get it with a silver tank on it, see the one that just looks like a pure metal tank, it doesn't look like it's got any paint or anything on it, it just looks, you see a reflection in it, which is handy to try to do up with straps in your old age. So
That's it.
And again, it's under $6,000.
Aye, I know. I get it. I get what you're saying. And again, I'm not slagging off Royal Enfields. It's just,
What wouldn't you have?
a Kawasaki W800.
You really have got it in for Kawasaki then,
It's
ain't you?
sorry. And my reason,
I've got my Kawa stick out.
I've just written down here. My reason, it's brown.
It's Kawasaki.
No, it's Kawasaki, but no, it's brown. There you go. That's what I'm going to say.
See that adventure bike we were talking about, the duck bike? See the duck bike, right?
Mm-hmm.
This year is Moto Guzzi's 100th anniversary, right? This year.
Don't bring out a brown bike.
They've done a new paint job for the duck bike, and it's brown. I don't think they class it as brown, but if you look at it, it's brown. I don't care whatever way you look at it, it's brown.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had the cheek to put a little plaque on the front mudguard fender that says Moto Guzzi 1921 to 2021, and you're going, yeah, name's going to notice that because it's a brown bike.
Yeah, it's brown.
Don't buy a brown
It's
bike.
brown. That's it. It's brown. Okay, there you go. Saying it.
Brown vehicles, not a good idea. Anyone that's got a brown vehicle out there,
And it's got this kind
Fair
of
play
weird
to you.
kind of 1980s big W white thing in the tank that looks like they're trying to make it look like something for a 1980s capitalist corporation that's trying to blow up a Nakatomi Plaza or something like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yep. I know.
And
It just compounds my argument for the Lost Adventure bike.
Again,
I'm saying don't buy a
it's
brown
another one of
bike.
these kind of. But our thing is, although it could technically be Wayne Enterprises, right? Which sometimes you're looking at it a wee bit, you go, Wayne Enterprises, that could sway it as not being the worst one to have in your garage, but it's brown.
Bruce Wayne never brought a brown bike.
No,
It was always black.
or very dark grey,
Or very dark black.
very dark black.
I'm saying don't buy a brown bike. If you'd seen my bike, there's a tint of brown about it actually when you look at it. But it's
No,
not.
it's not brown.
Is
That's
it not?
brown.
Right,
That's
cool.
brown.
I'm glad that
Is the mongrel not a bit brown as well?
No, just
no,
your,
it's just your seat.
Yeah,
Oh.
but
But the
brown
seat's
leather.
different.
Brown leather's
Brown
classy.
leather's different.
That's class in a glass. Do you know what I mean?
Aye.
Glass in a glass.
Brown leather's different. That you can get away with that. I mean, Bentley Continental GTs, 300 grand's worth of car, kind of brown leather interior. It looks amazing.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't paint it brown on the outside.
No.
You know what I mean? A giant turd on wheels. Just
If,
no.
you know what? Like, every time I'm driving the car, I'll say, "Oh, why would somebody buy a car in that colour?" There's loads of brown cars, especially expensive cars. People buy expensive cars in brown, and I go,
Why?
"Why?"
Was it the last one in the showroom?
Uh,
They must have went and went, oh, I've got to have one now.
yeah.
And then they'll wake up 2 days later and regret it.
Sort of like beige to brown, just any of those colours in between there. It's that. It's just
Yeah, aye.
I've yet to see a brown or beige bike that I go, wow,
beautiful.
that is stunning.
But there's an awful lot of brown leather seated bikes that are amazing.
Oh, aye.
But not
A lot of
brown.
people pay extra for brown leather seats.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Because they go, well, that'd be nice, but what would really set it off is that old school leather seat on it. So, cafe racer that I wouldn't have, again, I'm being kind of forced to be really, really nitpicky here, but the MV Agusta Super Veloce, which, again, there'll be people out there that's their dream bike,
Yeah.
but for me, just no for me. It's an awful lot of bike for something that's not that, you know what I mean? No. It's just no. But I get where you're coming from for the Z. The MV Agusta has that similar ilk about it with the cone and all that kind of stuff. Aye. So no. Touring bikes, right, when you go.
So
Unleash.
I've gone with the Honda Goldwing because it is a car with two wheels, right? And that's what you want for a touring bike. It's got the stereo, it's got the heat and everything. I mean, it's just got every single toy.
It's got the centre dash out of Honda Civic.
Exactly. It's got every single toy you would want in a vehicle with a roof, but it doesn't have one, right? And but to me, that is the epitome of a touring bike.
It's got Apple CarPlay and everything.
Aye, so I'm like,
Matter of fact, there's the thing. How can they call it Apple CarPlay
but it's on a bike.
when it's on a bike?
Exactly.
It should be Apple Bike Play.
It should be.
Sounds like you do with the garage door shut, just you and your bike.
Anyway, family show, folks. So Honda Goldwing because it's just the epitome of a touring bike to me.
I'll agree with you. I mean, I'm gonna avoid the obvious BMW R1250 RT purely because I've got one and can't fault it.
Yeah, and I can't fault. I like touring bikes, and I like your BMW. Please don't get me wrong, but
I'm with you on a gold one.
yeah.
If money was no object, because
and
they
it
are
has to
quite
be
expensive.
a big, massive, ostentatious gold wing that just
Aye, in a deep red colour.
yeah, absolutely.
Aye, money was no object. Yep, I would have a gold wing.
It's the kind of bike that Santa Claus would have if he didn't have a sleigh with reindeer. Big red Honda Goldwing.
Yeah, I
Delivery's
can kind
big,
of see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
What, the Santa thing?
Yeah.
All right. I wondered. I thought you were going somewhere else there.
I kind of feel like it kind of looks like a really like souped up mobility scooter.
It does. It looks.
Oh God,
do you know?
you've just ruined my choice.
Do you know what it looks like? See if you look at like the new BMW. What is it? CEO4, the electric scooter.
Oh, it's hideous thing.
Aye. It's kind of like a cut down.
To be fair though, I'm not going to be a brand new Honda Goldwing here. I'm going to be one that's a bit older and a bit more kind of curvy and a bit more.
Oh, so you're going the old school version?
Old
Right,
school
I'm looking at
Honda
the
Goldwing.
2021 version here.
Aye, so.
Aye, see, I'm talking about 2021 version.
Sorry, no, I'm going old school Honda Goldwing here for a
All right,
tourer.
you're going
Yeah,
the
sorry.
old gold wing.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Well, that makes sense.
But it probably,
actually-
but you still got a radio on it. Do you know what I mean?
Aye,
With dials.
with dials.
Yeah, with dials.
In case anybody in the room didn't know what a dial,
A dial is, I'm wiggling my
Aye.
fingers.
Or a dial guadgy. Aye, we've got a listener who's actually got an old gold wing, so shout out to Fitzy.
Yeah.
But his is a special one. I'll tell you more about that offline. What wouldn't you have in the tourer category?
Kawasaki.
Wow.
Sorry, as long as it's not BMW RT.
But you know what? It's a Kawasaki Versus Grand Tourer.
See, that I would argue that's an adventure bike.
Exactly. But they're calling it a Grand Tourer and they're saying
Aye.
and they're pushing for you to tour around in it. And I'm going, don't Kawasaki, don't try and muscle in your adventure bike, which is a good adventure bike, just a bit for me. But
I was going to say, wasn't that knowing you wouldn't have section?
as but don't call something a tourer when it's not a tourer. Doesn't look like a tourer.
See if they just called it a GT
Aye. But
and
Grand
then
Tourer.
and no loaded, but Grand Tourer.
There's a number of people that have got like old Harleys with like fronts on it so big and so wide, that it looks like a tank, or it looks like some sort of thing that Jerry Anderson would make into some sort of thing that Thunderbirds would fly, and they irritate me because I just think
That's how you feel riding one
Aye.
of those as well.
I know they just think, oh God, I mean what, and it's just they're so plain. Do you know what I mean? At the
Thunderbird
front,
5 is leaving the
you know,
garage.
But I've gone with the Tourer because a couple of things. It should be slapped down for the Trade Descriptions Act. There you go.
I went for talking about big Harleys. I went for the CVO Limited because it's like 440 something kilos. It's huge, absolutely massive. I like to think that I could hold or catch most bikes, but no, that's gonna rip your back out.
Aye.
You know what I mean? That's just no. And I'm sure when you're on the road and you're ploughing down the motorway, it's the comfiest thing ever. But I'd hate to put my feet down. You know what I mean? And that's before you put a passenger on it. And the back thing's like a what's the big wingback chairs? The Chesterfield. You know what I mean? It's like a Chesterfield on the back. You know what I mean?
Actually, it's not a chassis. I'm just going to give you a wee bit of sofa information here.
Oh,
Right. So, a couch, where the back and the arms are all on the one level,
yes.
that's a Chesterfield.
All right, okay.
Just so you know.
What is the old-fashioned wingback chairs then?
So, I would call that a wingback chair. So,
All right.
right.
So
So
I was
with that-
right first time.
You were right the first time, yeah.
It was
But a
wingback chair.
Chesterfield is actually where the arms and the back is all at one level.
All right, okay.
There you go.
There you go. You learn all sorts of weird nonsense on this show.
Absolutely. Welcome to the Average Bikers Sofa Podcast.
Aye. And again, the other thing about the CVO Limited is its starting price is £37,500. I could buy a catering for that and have just as much fun, and it's probably just as heavy,
Aye.
if not lighter, and goes stink. Next category, what I call the fume inhaler collection, sports bikes, where you're actually sniffing the fumes off a tank or licking a tank in some cases. What I would have, BMW M1000RR all day long, an absolute weapon, and it looks good. That's it. The inner child in me has that on the screen. That's for me is the Lamborghini Countach on my wall when I was a kid.
Oh, I know. I love that.
Like your desktop
Aye,
screensaver.
Totally. And I toyed, and don't get me wrong, I toyed a long time back and forward between that and the Fireblade, because it's a Fireblade, and everybody who had a Ferrari poster, that was your equivalent.
Absolutely.
The Fireblade, and it's the new one in that kind of matte black, a bit like John's, but it has this beautiful red stripe right through it, which just again it has that kind of Tron feel. Beautiful bike, but I'm still probably have you buy a standard road bike. Well, a standard road bike, that is a road bike, and it comes with pit mode. I'll never use pit mode. However, it's got it.
Yeah. I've gone for a Hayabusa.
Oh, you went full tilt. You went proper, full-on, angry Japanese sports bike.
Yeah. Because
Good lad.
I went Hayabusa because, correct me if I'm wrong, but if it wasn't the first, it was probably one of the first production bikes to top 200 miles an hour.
That was the original.
That was the original
hyper bike.
hyper
Not
bike.
even a super bike.
Sorry,
Hyper bike.
So for me, having that bit of history in your garage, and it would be an original Hayabusa I would want, not the ones now that are all super tuned and got all these safety features and everything. It's the one that does. There's the one that makes you realise adrenaline is brown. That's the one I would want, right? That is exactly the one I would want. The big puffy, kind of almost pufferfish looking fairing, with the Japanese writing down the side and everything. That's it all day long. Since from the minute they brought it out and they brought it, I went, I want one of those in my garage. I would probably be too scared to ever ride it because I would just kill myself.
We'd hear you coming. You
would die, absolutely. Yeah, the bike would be there and I'd be going in a different direction. But, so Suzuki Hayabusa, original one at top 200, because I think the newer versions, they started to not get to 200 miles per hour because it was just like so dangerous, and they started putting in limiters and all this traction control and all these things to slow them down. I don't want the one that slows them down. I would want that one, the hyper bike. There you go.
I want the one I'm going in through the pearly gates to
exactly
your newfound
in that lovely pearlescent white colour that they had. It looks a bit like coral going.
By the way, don't book me into the crematorium. I'll make my own way there.
Exactly.
And a fireball.
What would you not have?
I've got two, right? Because one's more of a category, right? And then I've been really nitpicky going back. The one bike I probably wouldn't have, Hoysong did a bike about 6 or 7 years ago, which was a 650 sports bike, and it just was it was absolutely ugly as sin, and it wasn't reliable and all this kind of good stuff. Thankfully, they've learnt their lesson and stopped making it, so I wouldn't have one of them. But I think generally, any kind of sport bike under the 300cc mark, so see like your R3s and all this kind of stuff, just what's the point?
I know.
What is the
absolutely
point? And like, the same goes, that's the same for R125s and all this kind of stuff. What is the point? There's just no point to them at all. Again, personal opinion, but I just don't. If you're going to buy a sports bike, just go and buy yourself an old Ninja 400 or a new Ninja 650 or they don't call it a Ninja, they call it the ZX6R or whatever. But just buy yourself a mid-weight sports bike. And I know there's contention, but even go and buy an R7, even though it's not an R7, according to controversial Colin, but just still have an R7.
Well, you're going to hate me for mine.
Kawasaki.
No, I've gone for a Honda Fireblade. But it is a brilliant bike. But I have gone for the...
Clearly not, because you haven't put it in your not to have category.
I have gone for it for the very reasons that you liked it.
Everybody's got one.
Everybody's got one. Or everybody...
Wants one
or aspires to one. You know what I mean? So it's like when everybody in the 80s had Kim Basinger 9.5 weeks up on their wall poster, right? I had Lita Ford, right? So I didn't go for the traditional.
Boo.
Exactly, right? So, so when everybody's got those classic posters of that kind of thing, and I've gone all misogynistic here, John, I apologise, right? But I mean, we are talking, young adolescent males here, right? So you've got everybody had that 9.5 weeks poster with Kim Basinger and the feeding the food in the fridge, right? So
I had
she hot in it?
Oh God!
That's just appreciating hot women. Absolutely.
I had Lita Ford up there. Do you know what I mean? Because everyone else had the Kim Basinger poster. I might have had.
If it's any consolation, I had Slut Bride Madonna
Oh, there you go. So,
So-
but so it's like, and it's that same thing, and it's the same thing.
I probably would have had the same one.
It's the same thing. Why
just look dirty.
Ferraris? Everybody had the Ferrari Testarossa up there because of Magnum. Those kind of things, and everybody,
Because everybody wanted the Testarossa
everybody.
because it came with a free moustache.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. And very tight shorts. And so that's why I've not. And actually, I would love to have a fire blade for what it is, which is an amazing sports bike. But because it's everyone else's choice as well, I've kind of went, it's not my choice.
That your logic makes sense.
It's a bit like and I'm doing myself a disservice, and I'm going to give you an example of why I know I'm doing myself a disservice with this, but I'm sticking to it just now, because for years and years and years, everybody said, watch Breaking Bad. Watch Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad is amazing. What an amazing television. I'm not watching it. Everyone else is watching it. I'm not watching it. Everyone else, nope. And then, of course, I watched it, and it was an amazing television series, right? So, in my opinion, right? So, yeah, but the whole point was I spent years no watching it because that's what everybody else was watching.
I was like that with Stranger Things.
Yeah. So I'm a bit like that with Honda Fireblade. Everybody talks about how amazing the Honda Fireblade is. I know the Honda Fireblade is amazing. I've read all the specs. It's a beautiful, beautiful sports bike.
And I wouldn't say no if somebody was giving you one for free.
Exactly.
Yes.
So and if anyone wants a
listening,
Honda
Honda.
Fireblade, then you have exceptional taste in bikes. And you also don't have that negative or that kind of twisted way of always going with what everyone else doesn't want to go with. There you go. That's my reason for it.
That makes sense.
Because again, there isn't really a bad sports bike apart from, and I wanted to stay away from your kind of obscure Chinese makes and all that kind of stuff,
Aye.
because I think there's obviously a like underpowered sports bikes,
Yep.
that kind of thing. So
Aye.
There you
But again, it's one of those ones.
yeah, there you go. Rant over.
The intros, the 125s.
Mark Mungrel. Woohoo!
Funnily enough, I went for the Mutt Mongrel, and not because you're here, but because
It's a cute,
it's just a great looking bike. I know somebody asked me years ago that they were going to do their CBT, but they only wanted to do the 125. They just wanted to keep doing their CBT. They had no interest in getting the big bike. And what kind of bike were they looking at? They liked the Van 125, and I was like, oh no, don't buy one of them. You need to look at the Mutt Mongrel.
Aye.
And it was like, really? And obviously, what I went and looked at, never ever done a CBT right enough. And to this day, he'll still say, oh, I'm still thinking about my CBT, and I'll go, oh, aye, cool, you should go and do it, definitely. I mean, you'll love it.
Mm-hmm.
But I did go for the Mutt Mongrel, and don't get me wrong, I've ridden the Honda CBF 125, I had the MT 125, I did like the Varadero because of the size and all that, but again, can't fault the Steve McQueen look.
No, exactly.
You know what I mean?
And not in my garage 125. I've done what you did with the sports bikes.
Yep.
And I went for a category rather than a particular 125.
Yeah.
Any 125 that looks like a sports bike.
That's exactly what I did.
I'm like, no, see all your like, and it's like you get the is it the Honda with the Respro fairing and all that on it and everything.
Aye, they don't
And it's a
make
125.
they don't make that anymore.
Aye. And I'm
And you're
like,
like, oh great, you've learned your lesson.
yeah,
You've stopped making
don't make a bike look faster than it is.
No, and I did that whole kind
There you
of category thing. You know what I mean? And said, "Oh, there you go."
Because a 125 is a transition bike, really. Whether it's because you're either
Or a commuter.
or a commuter, yeah,
Aye.
exactly, yeah. So you're picking that, and for nipping through for nipping through the streets of London, for instance, as John will discover when he's down there, the 125 is great for just nipping about. Boom, boom, boom,
Are you taking it to there?
economical and all
Yeah, I'm
that,
taking it down to London, yeah.
So
Balls of steel.
I know, absolutely. So from that perspective,
He's going to come back a better rider than we are.
I know, totally,
He's
absolutely.
going to be like, this is easy.
I mean, you spoke about the Mongrel as well, having like, it will make me a better biker.
It's not a very forgiving bike, the Mark Mongrel. If you make a mistake, you made a mistake with that clutch, with your clutch and everything. It's not a forgiving bike, in the way that a higher powered, electronically tinkered bike is. It is a basic. You've got to learn to ride this the way you ride a bike, and that's one
Aye.
of the reasons I love it as well. Because it will make John a better rider. Make anybody that learns on a Mutt Mongrel a better bike rider. Because you need to get that balance between clutch and gas and brakes spot on.
And that's the benefit of a 125.
Aye.
You know what I mean? Because
Any 125 does that for you. I get that, but the ones that have got a wee bit more tweaking or electronics and things in them, they're making it a bit easy for folk to learn.
Aye.
They do it for you.
Yeah, exactly. So
Aye.
And that's why I love the Mutt Mongrel, because it will make people who have that bike a better biker.
It means that when you jump onto that bike,
A
that's
technically
got all
better
that.
biker, yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, and you'll not be scared to have a bit more power and gas on it, because you know how well you can control with your fine motor skills in the clutch and all these kind of things.
Aye, which will help you when you go into do your Mod 1 and all that.
Aye.
The fact that you've got that skill, because it means then it's just so much easier on the big bike.
You'll be
You fly through
zipping
Mod
in the
1s and
codes
stuff.
and all that. You'll
Exactly.
be sorted.
The other thing I did pick up on in that 125 category was a bike that I looked at when I was still tormenting my wife to get my CBT and get my 125, and it was AGS, and AGS did a bike called the Bobber, right, which I thought this looks like it's come straight out of the Turtles workshop, right? But in hindsight, that is not a practical 125.
No.
That thing, and they don't make it anymore, thankfully, right? But that thing, that AGS, they call it a Bobber.
I can see why they call it a bobber, because of the shape
Because
of
of
it.
well, I think more so because of the seat. But
Aye.
look at the size of the rake on the front of that.
I know.
I mean, the handlebar, the actual forks go. I mean,
It looked. Aye.
and that tank's getting you nowhere. That's taking like 3 teaspoons of petrol.
Aye.
That tank.
There you go.
Do you know what I mean? So that was my one not have.
Absolutely.
If I had to pick a one not have, but I get the
Perfect.
sport bike thing. And last but not least, first big bike.
So I've actually, that's a difficult one. I think to me that's just about taste now. There's a lot of good A2, A1 big bikes, right?
Yes.
So, and I've got 3 I've written down, I think, depending on what your taste is and budget. So the Suzuki SV650, which I didn't want as a naked bike, but would have as my first big bike. There's a Honda CB650, right? But I've got the Triumph Street Twin. So, it's your first big bike.
Is that the one you would have? If you were
I'd-
if you were to go back right now, if you were in John's position.
Oh no, I bought the Street Cup. That would have been my first big bike. If I'd walked into Triumph and that was my first, I'd have bought that Street Cup all day long.
Because it was yellow.
The but they don't make it anymore. So, but the Street Twin is kind of, a kind of slightly more nice Street Twin,
Aye, Street Twin is nice.
especially a new one with all the wee extra tweaks and things like that.
Aye,
Really good, yeah.
I'll give that. Street Twin's nice. I went Yamaha Tracer 900, which Tio will be listening to this at 2 a.m. in his bed while his wife hears it at the same time and jumping up and down,
Aye.
effing and blinding and going, yes, I made it, because that's what he had, his first
Aye,
bike.
it's
But
great bike, great bike.
it's a brilliant first bike, the 900. In terms of what I wouldn't have, it's very difficult, but I went for the Honda NX 750 because it's ugly.
Yeah, I think these
Underpowered, it's
you've got all those kind of 600 to 900 cc bikes, and it is just a bit, aye.
It's just no.
Yeah.
The only thing I will say is you can actually lift the because the fuel tank's in a different position. The actual is the fuel tank lifts up, and it's like a cubby hole, and it can fit a full size helmet in it. That tells you the bike's too big.
Absolutely.
When you power, if you can fit a full size helmet
Underneath the tank.
underneath the tank, that's wasted space.
That should all be combustion engine under there.
What did you go for?
I went for
SV650.
no. I went for.
Alright.
I went for this is. I went for any BMW or Ducati.
Are you seriously? Are you trying to upset the apple cart? What about the 9? The R9T?
No, R90's lovely.
Haha.
I love,
You got him there.
No. BMWs and Ducatis are really expensive. So for your first big bike,
Yeah, okay.
the chances are, and I'm going on my
Yep,
experience,
I
would
see your logic.
I
now.
will drop it. So I don't want to spend
Aye, you dropped the yellow
that amount
Suzuki,
of money.
so aye.
I know, but that yellow Suzuki when I bought it was $4,000, right? So it wasn't a lot of money in comparison to if I'd bought a BMW or if I'd bought a
No.
Ducati. So because it's my first big bike,
Yep.
and I'm not that good with big bikes, based on experience and based on my own personal experience, I wouldn't want any bike that would make me burst into tears if I
If you
dropped it.
dropped it.
I mean, any bike you drop, you're going to have that sinking feeling. I've dropped my bike, right?
Oh, aye. Totally.
But if you've got a Ducati Monster and you drop it and you break something on it, you cry and then you cry again and then you get the bill in and then you really cry. Do you know what I mean? So
Then you remortgage.
but I love the BMW, and I love that BMW.
Aye.
Yeah, I'm surprised it didn't. And I could probably add it into some categories, right? But it's just as your first bike, unless you're willing to take that risk that you will damage it even in a stupid, silly wee way.
Aye.
And that's why. It's not because I don't love them. I do love them, especially that BMW. But, and you've seen pictures of me sitting on it in the BMW museum, right? So
Aye.
I love them.
With your
right?
box of hankies.
With my
Yep.
box of hankies, yeah, absolutely. Family show.
George
Family show. I was crying with disappointment I couldn't get one.
Exactly.
So
That's what I meant.
Of course it was. So yeah, that's why. So and I thought I'm going to say that because I know that you're going to turn around and go, oh, but what about this? And I'm going to,
Aye.
I have
No, I get your logic.
twisted the logic here.
I get your logic.
go.
It is twisted, but I absolutely get your logic. So I can't really fault you on that. There's no really conclusion this week because this was just us
Rabbiting on for quite a while.
rabbiting on for quite a while.
Yeah.
Just about some of the bikes that we wouldn't have. If anyone out there disagrees, well, tough, because that's what we would have. If you want to get in contact with us and let us know what your favourites are, by all accounts, fill your boots.
One last question for John then, our super celebrity guest,
But
John.
has that had any influence?
Has that had any influence on your choice for your bobber?
Well, as you say, I'm still learning in the categories that you were kind of going through. And listen, the cafe racers were kind of interested me a little bit in the look. So who knows what might happen?
CCM Spitfire, give me a shot. So
That certainly tickled me a little.
By the way, if you want a piece of advice from me, CCM Spitfire, great bike. For one and only reason, it's about an 830mm seat height, which means you can park it at your dad's. Knowing fine well your dad can't take it out because he's not getting on it.
exactly, I know.
Hate BMWs.
Do they do
BMW
stabilizers? So you know what I mean. But another great thing about the CCMs are that they are limited. They're limited numbers. They only make a
Yeah,
few.
limited numbers
So,
are very cool.
you know-
However, BMW R9T, that's another good looking bit, and you can get, there's so many different variants
Aye.
of that bike. So you can get like an urban one, you can get a GS one, you can get a cafe racer one.
And then the word 9 and T.
Aye.
Yeah, but I think possibly, which maybe is a bit off brand for me, though, of all the bikes you guys were talking
Please
about.
don't tell me you're a Kawasaki Versus. Please.
Oh,
No.
go on, dear. Oh, that would be brilliant. I just end the podcast here. I'm like, thanks, see you again, bye.
Is your bike Darren S1000RR? That's very sexy. So, as a first bike,
Look
no,
at the M version.
the M version.
So know how with BMW, know how the BMW car, you get like the 3 Series and then you get an M3.
Mm-hmm.
They've started doing them with bikes.
Mm-hmm.
So you get an M version. Oh, matter of fact, and if you really like that, look at the HP4.
Okay.
The BMW HP4 was the kind of, I don't know if it was a predecessor, it was just a different variant, but it had like shark's gills and everything in it. It was such a beast.
Very cool.
So there you go. So we may have slightly influenced John.
Yeah,
a little.
However,
Apologies to Triumph because I was selling them on that totally. Been
he was on commission.
I still think the Bobber will be my first, though. I do.
you do, I think when you've got an idea of what you want as your first bike, you kind of stick with that. Do
Yeah.
you know what I mean? You do stick with it.
You never know. You might ride it and go,
Yeah.
or
First.
this, I thought this would be like a bit more nimbler, or I don't really know.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Dan was saying earlier on, and I know this is going to be one of the longest podcasts we've ever done, right? But
I'll edit it down
that's
to
fine.
couple
Yeah,
of
we could
couple of
dead
weeks.
that.
Aye.
And so you're right. When I got my first bike, I didn't get my dream bike. I didn't get my best first bike and anything. I went purely on what I could afford.
Aye.
That I liked the look of at the time. It was yellow and black, and I could put Batman stickers on it. So that sold it for me. And I did find, that you were getting bored with it after a wee while. But budget wise, it was a perfect bike for me to have and to have for a period of time. But if you've got a dream bike or a bike that you see yourself on the minute you pass your test anyway, then I don't think you probably will change your mind because you've already put yourself on that bike.
Aye, you built it up.
And you've built it up. You know what I mean? But what you're probably saying is that's a great bike and I'll have it for a year. But now I've got some fun options
Yeah.
to pick here.
That's it.
And you don't know, do you know what I mean? If let's say early you were to get a 3 test done and whatever and pass your bike test in 6 months' time,
Aye.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You mean you're in to start of 2022.
The world is your whelk at that point.
You have a whole new range of bikes that have came out because there's bikes getting released every 5 minutes, and especially right now because we're coming into that season where
Who knows
start-
what Triumph's going to bring out in the old enduro and motocross and stuff like that.
you're starting to get to the point where we're starting to get to motorbike showtime.
Aye.
You know what I mean? NEC's up and running again this year in December. Again, maybe a nice wee road trip.
Meet
But
halfway.
That's when they kind of launched like or no launch, but that's where you get to see some of the newer bikes that came out 3 or 4 months before, and because we're talking about obviously the new Sportster.
Yep.
S. Disneyland in the showroom, I think, until September, just in time for the new registrations, and there'll be some others that are the same. So the bikes may have all changed. I know the bobber's in your head, but you might be a brand new bike we don't know about yet that comes out that you go, whoa, what is that?
Right.
That's, you know what I mean? So, but you can't go wrong with a bobber.
No.
If you get one, fair play to you. Just don't bring it around here.
Also remember the bobber. Also remember the bobber.
Green-eyed
It
monster
does have a
sits
very
in.
low seat, and I can sit on it. So
See, that's a negative.
warning.
That's a negative. That's a
Warning,
drawback.
warning.
There we go.
That's a negative. You leave it parked. Dad, it's all right if I leave the bike at your house. Yeah, that's
So,
fine.
of course it is.
You just know fine well that you're not getting that back. Or you'll come back and be like, why is my bike suddenly an extra 1,000 miles on it? How did that happen? Oh, I don't know. It must be a fault in the clock. Episode 9, done.
That's it. Thank
That's
you,
it.
folks.
Massive thanks, John, for coming in this week. It's actually been good. It's been good fun having that different perspective. And it's good to kind of live through the CBT and the new experiences again, but
Yeah.
using you as the mule to take us through that. Good luck with Outlander, everything else you got coming up, including theory testing big bikes.
Woohoo! Thank you so much.
We'll
We'll-
watch this.
we'll-
We'll start building it up for the
Yeah,
next podcast.
exactly.
You know what I mean? John's got his
Talk
theory
about it.
test in 6 months. Thanks for listening to the ramblings of us, as ever, the average bikers. These are just the ramblings and personal opinions of a couple of average bikers.
And I do
again,
love Kawasaki's. Just please don't ever fall out with people who have a
Kawasaki. If you're listening, he actually would really love a Z900. But yeah, as long as you guys keep listening, we'll keep making. So
Thank you very much. A massive thank you from us all here. And if you've enjoyed it, please like, share, and more importantly, subscribe. And if you want to get in touch with questions or a possible big question,
or you want to let us know what your would and wouldn't haves.
yep, we'd love to hear that, and we can chat about it and share some of our listeners' ideas. If you want to completely bash me for saying that the Honda Fireblade is not what I would have in my garage, go for it, absolutely. But please understand that my reasoning for it. So, but then do email us at averagebikersinacave@outlook.com, or get in touch via our Facebook page or Instagram, and we will see you in the next episode. So until next time, remember,
Only a biker understands why his dog sticks his head out the car window. Ruff!